That's correct. It's the butter cow, which has 9 hearts to represent the 9 essential nutrients in milk. That's right, it's made entirely out of butter, and it's a state fair tradition since at least 1922.
Okay, we're ready. Wake up, Ben.
What?
All right, your Ben Joravsky show for Thursday, August 27th is moments away. But before we get into that, we need to thank the following unions for jumping on board and helping bring back the Ben Joravsky show. And for something different, we'll add some music to this. Oh my, hold on, let me change that here. All right, for something different, we'll add some music to this.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9. The International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. And the Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you by the Chicago Federation of Labor and, of course, the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 and District 8.
That's pretty good, right, Ben?
Where'd you get that voice?
I don't know. Just made it up. Just made it up. All right, everybody. Oh, let me get my song ready. Oh, I got a case of the Tuesdays over here. My goodness. Ever since we started the show, that's a thing now. The Tuesdays I get. The Ben Joravsky Show starts right. Wait, hold on. Let me make sure I'm recording. Oh, I'm not recording. See? Got a case of the Tuesdays here. All right. You ever had a case of the Tuesdays, Ben?
Every Tuesday.
Oh, my God.
Used to have it on Monday. Then we called it a case of the Mondays. Now it's case of the Tuesdays. Get it? Because Tuesday's the start of the week.
The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Tuesday, August 27th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, election lawyer Adolfo Mondragon returns. We welcome back our good friend Mark Sims. And it's the return of the South Side political know-it-alls, Jerry Brown and Tom Shepard. And now your host, South Side political know-it-all, North Side, East, West, all the sides, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Wilson Picket Line Tuesday. And here's why. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Speaking of Tuesday, have a good weekend, D?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, all right, a great weekend. I saw a movie, Blinded by the Light. If you're a Bruce Springsteen fan, run, don't walk. You better really run fast. This movie is bombed at the box office. It'll probably be pulled by the end of Dennis nodding his head. Yeah.
I will walk very slowly to see that one.
Not a big Bruce Springsteen fan, Dr. D. Loves Tom Petty, though. If there's a Tom Petty movie, he's first in line to see it.
If there's a Tom Petty movie out there, I won't back down to see it. How about that?
So, and I won't back to... Anyway, I saw that movie. I started watching a new TV show, Mindhunter. Freaky weird. Have you heard about this TV show, D?
No, I have not.
Mindhunter. It's about the FBI agents exploring the minds of serial killers. Really weird, but I have to admit I'm hooked. And I finished reading a great book, City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. At the end, I was weeping. Weeping, I tell you, D.
Aww.
It was like 2 a.m. I love this book, City of Girls. It's a really big book, and when I was, you have to really commit to finishing it. I love it. Anyway, woke up today and said it's time to get down to business. No more crying over books. No more cheering over Bruce Springsteen movies.
God.
No more getting freaky about TV shows. Gotta get down to business.
I do not want to work with that Ben Joravsky.
Which one? Crying over books?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No
Freaky
crying
TV
over
shows.
Freaky TV shows. Saw a headline in my Tribune. Home delivered. CTU rejects new contract proposal. Lightfoot counters there's real money on the table. Yes, indeed. It turns out we could be, D, on the threshold of a teacher strike in the city of Chicago. Haven't had a real teacher strike in the city of Chicago since 2012 when Mayor Rahm was the mayor. We had a one-day experimental strike, I think in 2014 or 15, and then it faded from memory. Anyway, so I got to make a point right up front. When it comes to teachers, I just have to disclose this, D. I think it's safe to say I'm pretty much always on the side of the teachers union in fights with mayors. And this goes back to the 70s because I have to disclose this. My mother, may she rest in peace, was a Chicago public school teacher for many years. I've talked about this on the show. And she was a teacher rep for many years. And I believe she was on 9 strikes, D. 9 strikes. You believe that's a lot of strikes, okay? And so growing up, I was well aware of teachers having to go on strike to just sort of like wrench a raise out of the Board of Education, some all-powerful mayor. Back in those days, it was Mayor Daley and Mayor Blandick. And I think my mom was a teacher during the Harold Washington strike, the strike that took place in 1987. Anyway, so I'm always on the side of the Chicago Teachers Union. And I like to tell Stacey Davis Gates when she comes on the show, who's like the vice president of the Chicago Teachers Union, back in the day, Stacey, teachers weren't on strike. Teachers were teachers. They were men and women. They didn't go on strike in September when the weather was warm. They went on strike in the middle of December when the weather was cold. And Stacey's like, God, I have to hear this again. But so anyway, I'm a supporter of the teachers union, generally speaking. That puts me opposite with the Tribune. Tribune is generally on the other side of things. This is one of the reasons why I have my issues with the Chicago Tribune. The Chicago Tribune's attitude toward teachers is, shut up! Stop asking for money. The Chicago Tribune's editorial board has been against every single teacher's strike since the 60s. If they had their way, teachers would still be making whatever they made in 1966. So you might say that if Chicago has extremes in regards to teachers, the Tribune's over here and I'm over here, or maybe the Tribune will be here on the right, I'm on the left. Anyway, I'm generally on the side of teachers. Not always, by the way, do I agree with everything the Chicago Teachers Union does. I must add that the last issue over the group of teachers who went down to Venezuela and suddenly weighed in on Venezuelan politics, issuing statements about how great Venezuela was. I thought, I don't know, guys, you're losing sight of what you're all about. You're supposed to be about contracts for teachers, looking out for teachers and students and parents in the city of Chicago. So I not always agree with everything the Chicago Teachers Union does. Anyway, as far as I can tell, the big issue in this strike is not so much money. I believe that the teachers union and the city of Chicago, and Lori Lightfoot is basically the one who's negotiating with them, Mayor Lightfoot, are pretty close when it comes to money. The teachers want their raise over 3 years. The board, as I understand it, wants over 5 years. So they can probably work that out. The issue, it seems to me, has to do with putting into the contract protection for jobs like what they call wraparound services, like nurses and counselors and therapists of various kinds that I believe the students need if we're going to have a 21st century civilized school system. The Board of Education claims that they've already hired some nurses and therapists and counselors, and they don't really need to codify them in a contract. They don't need to protect them in a contract. They want that freedom. All right, that liberty to maybe not have them next year. Whereas the Board of the teachers are insisting that a certain number of like a librarian in every school or a nurse in every school. And the Board of Education, I'm not feeling that because they want the freedom to fire these nurses and therapists pretty much whenever they can. And I believe that a civilized Chicago public school system should have, every single public school should have a librarian. This is one of my pet peeves back in the days of Rahm when he was firing librarians and forcing principals to decide between having a librarian, let's say having a Spanish teacher. So sometimes they would move the librarian to the Spanish, to teach Spanish. They would have nobody in the library. I don't know why a school system that claims to be one of the best urban school systems in the country would want to do away with librarians, but there you have it. And they didn't want to make that commitment, and apparently they still don't want to make that commitment. So my general attitude about this goes like this. If the city of Chicago is going to say that, just to pick one example, Sterling Bay, the developer, has a contractual right to the $1.3 billion that Mayor Rahm wants to give them, or Mayor Rahm got the city council to agree to give them, to build a development, Lincoln Yards, in an upscale neighborhood. If the city of Chicago says they have that right, then I think the teachers unions, every school in Chicago should have the right to a nurse and a therapist and a counselor. All right. I would say that nurses, therapists, and counselors should come before handouts to developers to build upscale developments and gentrifying neighborhoods that don't need a handout to begin with. That's just my opinion on a general basis. And I'll remind everybody that Lori Lightfoot, as we speak, the mayor of the city of Chicago, has her lawyers in court fighting plaintiffs. I just wrote about this, is fresh on my mind. Fighting the Grassroots Collaborative and Raise Your Hand Coalition, who are in court battling that TIF, that $1.3 billion handout to Sterling Bay. Lori Lightfoot has her lawyers in court fighting them on that, saying they don't have standing, trying to get the judge to dismiss their case so that contract can stay and the Sterling Bay can get their $1.3 billion. So my general attitude is that if the city of Chicago can afford to give $1.3 billion to developers on the north side of Chicago in a gentrifying neighborhood, then it could afford to put a librarian and a nurse in every school in the city of Chicago. And I think most people in the city would agree with me on that. If they don't, go read the Tribune. We got a great show today, everybody. Yes, indeed. Adolfo Mondragon will be in the studio, our election law expert. We're going to be debating. We're going to have a great debate about Michael Madigan and Jason Gonzalez, the great Madigan Gonzalez debate. Adolfo has one position. I have another. Be interesting to see how that goes. The legendary Mark Sims will be in the studio. He's got his own podcast now, and his latest show features Dr. D. Yes, Dr. D, talking about all kinds of issues of
That's
radio.
me. I'm Dennis. That's my name.
And did he call you Dr. D or Dennis in the interview?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think he called me Dennis.
Mark will be in here. Get his thoughts on Lori Lightfoot. It's time to give Lori Lightfoot grades, okay, everybody? And oh my goodness, big budget speech coming up. I didn't even mention that. We got the big budget speech, so we'll see what Mark has to say about Lori's big budget speech. And then, of course, it's like a South Side theme today. D. Adolfo is from the South Side, from Back of the Yards. Mark Sims is from the South Side, Roseland. Well, that's where he was born and raised. Jerry Brown and Tom Shepard, the South Side political know-it-alls, will be in the South Siders everywhere. Where's your Chicago White Sox hat, D?
Oh, man, I left it at home.
Well, at least you're not wearing a Cubs hat, all right? I don't think he would ever wear a Cubs hat. So we got a lot of political talk ahead of us, but before we do any of that, the doctor with the news.
Oh, Mayor Rahm wants to weigh in on that intro you gave.
Take a chill pill, man.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Mayor Rahm.
All right, everybody, it's the middle of the day. Let's do the local news. 2 stories involving our Chicago mayor that we must discuss. But we begin with the Illinois governor.
I'm not a perfect person.
That's right, Jonathan Bartholomew Pritzker.
Is that his name?
I don't know. I don't know what it stands for.
I think it's J.
Oh, it's just regular J?
I don't know. I just
like
made
J-A-Y?
I should know that. You know what? I'll look it up on my phone.
Yeah, look it up while we're doing a podcast. Sure. Now, if you've listened to the show or followed Illinois news in the last month, you already know this fact. Governor J.B. Pritzker loves signing legislation. We're still waiting to see what bills he's going to sign today. The deadline to act on bills approved by the General Assembly is approaching. J.B. Pritzker's hand hurts really badly, and he still has about 20 bills awaiting his decision. And while we were telethoning it out over at the office of the Chicago Reader on Friday, according to the Illinois Journal-Register, and I'm mentioning their name because I still don't believe it, according to the Illinois Journal-Register, J.B. Pritzker put the hammer down and acted more than 130 bills into law on Friday.
Wow.
Put some ice on that hand, buddy.
Oh, my God. That's a lot of signing.
Oh, my goodness. Carpal tunnel coming soon for J.B. Pritzker. And because we would really like to keep a listening audience for today's program, we're not going to cover all of them, okay? But we will do 3.
Number 1.
Okay.
Number 1, J.B. Pritzker. Oh, I got to switch the camera. There we go. Put it on me. Hey, guys, how's it going? I'm working the camera today. Usually Miles works it. All right, number 1. Let's see here. J.B. Pritzker signed legislation that allows Illinois treasurer and the tallest man in Springfield, better luck next time, Gazzardi, Michael Frericks, to acquire the Chase Bank at 1 East Old State Capitol Plaza. The bank is donating the building to the state.
Oh, I've not followed that particular issue, so I'm going to not jump in on that.
Well, we've met Michael Frericks. He's been on our program before. What do you think of old Michael Frericks? What's your take on him?
Michael Frericks has got. We used to bring Michael Frericks on because he's from downstate. Remember this back in the old days, D? The old days.
Yeah.
And
before he got fired.
And Michael Frericks would come talk about getting Trump voters downstate to vote Democratic. That was one of our favorite themes, and he's successful. That's where his roots are. So he's a bright, positive voice for the Democratic Party in terms of trying to get those downstate voters to vote Democrat. And for 10 trivia points, D, when was the last time you saw Michael Frericks?
Last October.
Was it October or September?
I'm just guessing. I don't know.
September, Labor Day. He was at the Labor Day picnic in Sue Garza's ward.
Yeah.
And there's a picture of you with him, and there's also a picture with you with Lori Lightfoot. In one picture, you're towering over the person, Lori Lightfoot, and the other one, you're getting towered over by Michael Frericks.
There's a picture of me and Michael Frericks?
Yeah, there's like you, Frericks, me. I think Jacob Kaplan is in that picture as well, young Jacob.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Number 2.
All right, if you just joined us, we're going over.
I did not know that.
We're going over some of the legislation passed on Friday by our Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. Apparently, according to Illinois Journal Register, nearly 130 bills signed. We're doing 3 of them, right? We're on to number 2. Pritzker also signed legislation designed to promote cooperation between the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum and the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library Foundation.
Well, yeah, it's a busy day. A lot of legislation. I really don't know anything about that one either, but I bet you JB is well versed on it.
You know he is.
Ben, the differences. That's my JB imitation.
Oh, that's actually not bad. Have you ever been to the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum, Ben?
Negatory.
Really?
Yeah. Is it in Springfield, did you say?
Yeah, it's in Springfield.
I was in Springfield once. Maybe I was there. I just forgot. It's been a long time since I've
quit
been in
smoking pot. No, I went to a wedding there.
You're kidding.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Who got married?
I'm not.
Well, how about
My friends Chris and Leanne got married. So
that's really sweet.
yeah, it is pretty sweet.
Number 3.
All right, our third one we're going to read here. And hey, this law, way to go, Illinois lawmakers on this one. Governor J.B. Pritzker signed into law Friday. Oh, I'm terrible at running this camera. Okay. J.B. Pritzker signed into law Friday a bill that prohibits people from smoking in vehicles if anyone younger than 18 is also in the vehicle.
Wow, that's a bill? They passed. I missed that one. Let me think about that. This is a good one. I should talk about this with Adolfo, constitutional law expert. So in other words, if a dad is in a car with his son, just throwing this out there, the son is 15 and the dad lights up a cigarette, it's now illegal to smoke in the car with the kid. But if the kid's not in the car, he can still smoke?
Under the new law, someone smoking in a vehicle with minors could be ticketed. A first offense can garner a fine of up to $100, and subsequent offenses can be fined up to $250. Electronic cigarettes. I know you love those e-cigs, Ben. Oh, he walks in with a e-cig. No, he doesn't. Electronic cigarettes are exempted from the bill, all right?
Oh, yeah, they exempted electronic cigarettes.
And also still no word as to what a minor smoking in a car maybe charge 15, 16.
That's a very good point. Can the kid get ticketed? Because daddy, it's the kid. You know what? I could see fathers handing the cigarette. Here, the cop's here. Take the cigarette. Kid's taking the cigarette. Oh, it was the kid smoking, officer, not me.
So still no word as to what a minor smoking in a car may be charged, but the law stipulates that it doesn't matter if the vehicle is moving or parked or if the windows are open. However, officers cannot stop a vehicle simply because they think an adult is smoking with a minor in the vehicle.
Oh, I see. So that if you just happen to stop the vehicle for another reason, like he goes through a stop sign and you see that. What driver? Well, drivers, you've been alerted. Throw the cigarette out. Okay.
Hey, what's that 13-year-old doing smoking back there?
By the way, Dee, you're a libertarian from downstate Alton. What's your view on this bill?
You know what? That's kind of weird. I don't know. I got to think about the bill. That's fine. Yeah, because it's kind of bad to be smoking with a kid in there.
It is bad to be smoking. I felt one of my highlights of the Rod Blagojevich administration for me was when he banned smoking in public places through a state law that exempted that forced the bowling alley where I bowl to put a ban on smoking. It was a great day in my life when I didn't have to go to Monday night bowling and just to have people blowing smoke in my face. So, I guess I can't complain about this bill. I'm not going to cry about this bill.
All right. So now moving on to the mayor, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Today, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot spoke at the IBEW Union Local 134. Ben, quick, what does IBEW stand for?
Oh, come on. International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, our good friend. And he was just on the show on Thursday. Was it Thursday? Jeff Johnson? Yeah.
Nice. You remembered Thursday and IBEW.
And Jeff Johnson, man.
Oh, my
Thursday
goodness.
was a long time ago. A lot of TV shows, a lot of books, a lot of movies ago. And sports. We're not going to talk about the Cubs.
Thank you. You're on top of it today, though. Yeah. You're on top of it. Lori was there talking pensions and said pensions are absolutely a promise, but structural changes need to be made. Here's a bit of today's speech from Lightfoot. Quote, In this state, we do have significant challenges with our pensions. Unfortunately, decisions that were made by people who stood in my office for years, people at the state level, they didn't make sure that your pensions were secure. But pensions are a promise, and I know that again from my upbringing. When you work hard and you struggle, and particularly when you're doing work as a government employee, you have a right to expect that the work that you have done is going to be rewarded at the end of your working life with a pension that pays you not just a living wage, but a comfortable retirement that you can build on.
I'm with her 100%. I wish all of us had pensions. So I think that should be the goal, just like universal health care is a goal. Taking care of old people. I'd like to point out to our younger listeners, one day you too will be old if all goes well.
I don't know what you're talking about. All right, moving on now. Last week on the show, after we learned that she is nearing 100 days as Chicago mayor, well, we decided on the Ben Joravsky show to channel our inner teachers and give Lori Lightfoot a grade for her performance thus far as Chicago mayor. Ben, what grade did you give Mayor Lightfoot on Friday?
All right, you're asking me to go back in time? That's me going back in time. I believe I gave her an A for not being Rahm Emanuel, which I think everybody would agree with me. That's what she deserves for not being Rahm Emanuel. And I gave her an A for chastising Ed Burke and basically taking away his power. Finally, someone stood up to Ed Burke. It was long overdue. Mayor Rahm should have done that, and Mayor Daley should have done. Richard M. Daley should have done that, but they chickened out. But then I gave her a D for TIFs, as I recall, and I may have overgraded her on that. I do not know. Administration is so vociferously fighting the lawsuit by the grassroots TIF, so I gave her a D on TIFs. And then I said I have to wait until after the budget speech and after the budget session before I give her a grade on budgets, because I don't really know what she's going to do with the budget. So I believe that was the grades I gave. Those were the grades I gave her.
Well, you said you may have overgraded. Would you like to go back and give a new grade to Lori Lightfoot now that you? Oh, wow.
Come on. I just wrote about it. It's fresh in my mind. I read the briefs that were filed by the mayor's lawyers, the city's lawyers, and I read the briefs that were filed by Grassroots Collaborative. I do not understand why Lori Lightfoot is fighting this lawsuit, and I do not find meritorious the issues that they raise. They're arguing that Grassroots Collaborative and Raise Your Hand Coalition do not have legal standing to file a case against the city in a TIF. So what? We're just, as citizens, we're just supposed to take whatever they do. We don't have standing. Whatever, like we live in these emperors that just govern us. We all know that there was not a legitimate discussion or analysis of that TIF. We all know that deal was shoved down our throats in the last meeting of the Rahm Emanuel administration. We all know there's some peculiarities by the virtue of the fact that Ed Burke, who was the former finance chair, was the property tax lawyer for the developer, had been the property tax lawyer. So for all these reasons, we have serious concerns about that TIF. And just because they rushed it through at the very end does not mean that we, the people of the city of Chicago, should not have a right to take it to court and examine it and see if it's in our best interest. So I'm very disappointed with the Lori Lightfoot administration for fighting that lawsuit.
Well, it looks like a group of community activists have taken to our idea, and they have also given Lori Lightfoot a grade on her performance thus far as she reaches 100 days as Chicago mayor. We're going to read those grades, but first, shout out to our good buddy Frank on Facebook. Governor Pritzker's full name, J. Robert Pritzker.
I knew it was Jay. I just forgot the Robert part. Yes, very good, Frank. Frank knows everything. By the way, Frank, we'll see you at the Hideout next Tuesday, September 3rd. Just a little transition there. Frank many times shows up at the Hideout for First Tuesday. Mick and I will be solving all the problems of immigration. All right, D, we got some guests. We're going to solve all the problems. Last month, we solved all the problems of healthcare in this country. And on next Tuesday, we're going to solve all the problems of immigration. So I look forward to doing that.
Who are the guests?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. All right, but you got a mission at hand, all right?
Actually, I think I do know that, but I can't remember. I don't want to misstate their names.
Well, all right. Okay, we'll move on. Like I said, community activists have taken to the same idea here. They're giving Lori Lightfoot a grade. Yeah, their grade is way more thorough. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times. Rachel Hinton and Nadir Issa, a group of community activists, gave Mayor Lori Lightfoot a dismal D grade for her overall performance during her 100 days in office, saying that she's failed to enact key parts of the progressive agenda that she campaigned on. At the news conference, the activists issued their overall grade as well as specific grades in several areas. Majors and others who want more money from homelessness and affordable housing programs gave Lightfoot a D in that area. The rest of the report card, she got an F for not passing the Civilian Police Accountability Council ordinance. She got another F for not fully supporting an elected school board. Another D for not yet closing loopholes in the Welcoming City Ordinance that allow for police collaboration with ICE, as well as ordinance or executive order to protect Chicagoans from Trump's racist raids. Another D for not ending the use of money bond, which would reduce pretrial incarceration. And three, count them three, incompletes. One for not passing the Community Benefits Agreement housing ordinance to stop gentrification and displacement caused by the Obama Presidential Center. Another for not reopening the city's shuttered mental health clinics. And the third for not yet establishing an office of gun violence prevention. Ben Joravsky, your thoughts?
Yeah, clearly the progressives of the city of Chicago are using this opportunity to put some pressure on Lori Lightfoot at the outset of the budget session to come to terms with them on all these various issues. And my overall thought is that, as I stated during the campaign, Lori Lightfoot is not a progressive. She has never been a progressive, and by that I mean somebody who is sort of at the forefront of all these social equity issues, which is really what these issues are that these activists are presenting. Lori Lightfoot is a corporate lawyer. As such, she's generally used to defending and preserving corporate interests. She was largely elected because she had a squeaky clean image, and the citizenry finally took revolt against the old ways of dealing, at least by Ed Burkes of the world. So it was almost like a revolt against Ed Burke, and Lori Lightfoot was the beneficiary of that. Now, she defeated Tony Preckwinkle. Just to go back in time a little bit, I always argued that Tony Preckwinkle was not a progressive either, that Tony Preckwinkle was basically a Chicago Democrat, and Chicago Democrats love to cut deals with corporate interests. So if you think of it this way, folks, Tony Preckwinkle will be cutting an interest with corporate Chicago as represented by Lori Lightfoot, and these same progressives who are mad with Lori Lightfoot would probably be mad with whatever agreement, whatever deal was cut. That's just generally my sense of how things have gone over the last 20 years. So I don't feel so bad that Lori Lightfoot was elected over Tony Preckwinkle from that aspect, but this pressure, if you want her to reopen mental health clinics, if you want her to put a community benefits agreement in to protect people from gentrification in the aftermath of constructing the Harold Washington Library, you're going to have to force her. You're going to have to put the pressure on. And one of the ways you do that, D, is to give her grades at like significant moments, like 100 days in. By the way, Lori was not happy with the grade.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, she was not happy with that. She felt it was just arbitrary to, I think she called it a Hallmark holiday, just to arbitrarily state 100 days in and give her a grade. But it's better than me back in the old days. I didn't like getting grades either, D, especially when they were D's and C's. I don't know about this grade thing. Why we got to get grades anyway? Can't we all just get along? Anyway, Lori didn't like those grades. I'll tell you what about something else about Lori Lightfoot. She got a counterpunch.
Oh.
You give her a bad grade, she's going to come after you, all right?
Well, this is not Lori Lightfoot's episode of the Ben Joravsky Show today, because we went to the Facebook page and asked all of you to give us a grade of Lori Lightfoot on her first 100 days. Yeah. We'll read a lot of your responses here. Let's go ahead and read some of these that we got. At Benny J Show, by the way, BENNY, the letter J, Show. Feel free to weigh in with your grade on Lori Lightfoot in her first 100 days as mayor. Sam went to the Facebook page. Sam puts, well, she's done just about everything I expected. So F. That was really funny.
Was that my Sam?
Yeah, that's your Sam.
I love Sam.
You own that Sam.
No,
all
but
right.
I know that Sam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
On to Tom. Tom weighed in. Tom says F minus. I thought that was a hyphen, but it's a minus.
F minus.
F minus.
How can you get a minus? F minus. I mean, it's like an F is an F. It's what it is. You can't be worse than utter failure. Okay.
Tom says F minus, broke every campaign promise she made and is intent on consolidating power in her hands.
Yeah, well, I mean, she is content on consolidating power. Yes, she's the mayor of the city of Chicago, and I'm not sure she broke every promise she made because like I said, she didn't really run as a progressive. Now, it's true, she did run as an opposition to Lincoln Yards TIF, and she is kind of breaking that promise by fighting the lawsuit. Valid point there.
All right, moving on here. Benjamin weighed in. Ben gives, not you, but Benjamin gives Lori Lightfoot a D. He says TIF's potential teacher strike, holding grudges against politicians who ran against her, siding with the CPD on the bail stuff. The list goes on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, D. Well, by that token, but having read his comments, I think he was kind of an easy grader on her.
Oh, hey, here we go. The glass half full over at Alan's house. Alan says A+ for kicking ass and taking names. The machine is dead.
Okay, well, I would not say the machine is. I don't even know what the machine is anymore. If by machine you mean Ed Burke, yes, Ed Burke. His power has waned, to put it mildly. But maybe there's a new machine in town. Lori Lightfoot has her own political action committee, so I don't know. Maybe it's the Lori machine as opposed to the Ed Burke machine.
All right, we'll do two more. We got Beto. Beto weighed in. No, not Beto
Beto
O'Rourke.
O'Rourke?
No, just regular old Beto.
Okay.
He says F for having Rahm's team negotiate the new school contract with the CTU. What's up with that? If you need to lower crime, there is peer-reviewed research on what works. Who is Lightfoot listening to? TIF reform? Where is it? Missing in action. Affordable housing? Kick the homeless to the curb recently seems to be following Rahm.
Well, I can't argue. He makes a lot of good points there, particularly on the issue of the homeless. We talked about this last week. I'll probably be talking about it in days to come. And specifically, Lori did campaign on a promise. Here, okay, this is a broken campaign promise. She wanted to she proposed a transaction tax on the sale of very expensive homes. I think homes beyond the $1 million range, doing this off the top of my head, and that tax would be used to fund programs to fight homelessness, maybe new housing programs, etc. And then over the last couple of weeks, her administration has backed away from that, and they say if that new tax is employed, they want to use the money just for general obligations. So they're not going to be dedicating it to fight homelessness, and many activists are upset about that.
All right, we'll do one more here. Our good friend Candace Castillo, reoccurring guest on the Ben Joravsky Show. She says F+. The plus is for Burke.
Okay, come on, Candace. Burke's bigger than just a plus on an F. All right, that's a pretty big deal. So come on, give her an A for Burke. Come on, let's be fair.
So there you are, some local news there. Like I said, feel free to weigh in with your thoughts on the Ben Joravsky Show Facebook page, BENNY, the letter J Show, at Benny J Show. If you're watching the Facebook live stream, hey, just go over to the post and leave us your grade for Lori Lightfoot with her first 100 days as mayor coming up. You know what else is coming up? Football season.
Ready, set, 2020.
Okay, that's the football noise there that Ben makes. It's almost football season, which means that the best sports reporters in Chicago want to offer you, yes, you, our listeners, an exclusive deal on unlimited digital access to all of the stories that you love. Ben, make that noise again.
Ready, set, 2020.
2020 Hut,
Wait,
everybody.
Is it Hut 2020 or 2020 Hut?
I don't know. Don't miss a game this season. Get all the big plays and scores and stories from the Chicago Sun-Times. For a limited time only, you, the listener, can lock in our lowest rate yet. Only $29.99 for a full, that's Full, full year of all the news and sports that you need to know. Stay up to date on breaking stories, get the deep dives and investigations from Sun-Times reporters, and go deep inside City Hall with the best in-class political reporting, and of course, cheer for the big games with the best sports team in the city. $29.99 for a full year of unlimited access. You cannot do better than that. And take advantage of this exclusive deal now at suntimes.com/Ben. Make that noise again.
Ready, set, 2020. Hut, hut.
Ready, set, 2020. Hut, hut.
Or you can do blue dog, or red dog. Whatever you want to do. It's the quarterback calling out signals.
It's up to you, listener. Blue dog
red
dog. Or ready, set, 2020 Hut, hut.
Yeah, either way.
Don't go anywhere, people. The Ben Joravsky Show will be right back. And after this break, we are going to hear from our good friend and election lawyer, the one, the only, Adolfo Mondragon. You are listening to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times. Attention Chicago innovators and creators, 2019 Chicago Ideas Week is coming soon. October 12th through the 17th, this annual Ideas Festival is back, and it's the largest, most of its kind. They bring in hundreds of thought leaders from around the globe and some local to share ideas and spark action all across Chicago. To get a better idea of what to expect, here's a bit of audio from last year's Chicago Ideas Week with special guest and Chicago comedian Hannibal Buress.
The real reason I came home is just because I was traveling a lot anyway. I wasn't in New York that much, and I don't have a full-time job in New York. I work a lot, but I'm not in New York, so it was just like I don't need to be here anymore, and also I just wanted to work on different stuff here in Chicago. So I have this center that I'm working on the west side, Melvina Masterminds. It's going to be arts and then a tech program and after school programming for kids in the North Austin area. So just wanted to be back. There we go.
October 12th through the 17th, it's 2019 Chicago Ideas Week. Tickets go on sale to members on August 22nd and to general public September 10th. Once again, if you're an innovator or creator in the city of Chicago or even outside the city, you must join us for Chicago Ideas Week, October 12th through the 17th. For tickets and event information, head to chicagoideas.com. That's chicagoideas.com, and we hope to see you October 12th through the 17th. Hey, that commercial break's over.
Yes,
Welcome back to
is.
the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Yes, indeed, we are live. We are at the Chicago Sun-Times, and Adolfo Mondragon is with us in the studio. And Adolfo, we have a whole list of, by the way, Adolfo Mondragon, lawyer, election law expert, candidate for office on the Southwest side, though no longer, and a big Bernie Sanders supporter. So eventually, a huge Bernie Sanders supporter, and we'll get to eventually the issue of Bernie in the polls. The latest poll that just came out, I think it was yesterday.
Right, but if you read every newspaper, he's in third place.
Yeah, well, if you read the Monmouth poll, he's tied for first place, and with the other liberal in the race, the other progressive in the race, Elizabeth Warren. We'll get to that. But Adolfo, welcome back. Thank you. Sitting in for Maya. Maya's on vacation in beautiful, I think she's in Portugal. So we take care of our guests. I can't say I sent her to Portugal.
Dude, yeah. You need to send me over.
Yeah, you'll be our correspondent in beautiful Portugal. All right, so the issue on the table, I've already promoted the great debate that we're going to have. And Adolfo and I have been arguing, and wow, that you have the article from the Sun-Times. I have you have it printed out from, and you have actually the
case.
The case itself. He's one step ahead of me, folks. I've only read the coverage of it. He's actually read the case. Let's see, page 16 of my beloved Bright One. This is a lawsuit, a federal lawsuit, right? It's a federal lawsuit,
It's
correct?
a federal lawsuit, right?
By Jason Gonzalez against House Speaker Michael Joseph Madigan, a leftover of the 2016 campaign. Can you believe it's already been 4 years or 3 years ago?
Which tells you how long it takes to get justice through the court system, because it's barely winding down. And it's not even the appeal yet. You know, if they do appeal.
If they do, by the way, and that issue of, I'm not sure I believe it's justice in the court system, but that's part of the debate that we're going to have. So I will do a brief summary, and then you tell me if I'm accurate in my summary, Adolfo, and then give your summary, and we'll take it. This is a philosophical debate that Adolfo and I have been having almost since this election. We were on opposite sides of the election. All right, so in 2016...
No, we were, well... Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know that we were on the opposite sides,
of the
but...
election. Okay, in 2016, at the height of Bruce Rauner's war on Michael Madigan, rhetorical war on Michael Madigan, when Bruce Rauner, governor of the state of Illinois, depicted Michael Madigan as public enemy number one, the face that was the person, the personality, the public figure who was more responsible than anyone else was wrong in Illinois. That was essentially what Bruce Rauner did. A gentleman named Jason Gonzalez challenged Michael Madigan in the Democratic primary for state rep, all right, on the southwest side of Chicago, not far from where Adolfo lives. And Madigan's forces responded by putting up two phony candidates. It's pretty obviously that they did that with Hispanic surnames to confuse the voters. Apparently, Michael Madigan's political forces had such a low estimation of the intelligence of
I guess
voters.
in this case, it wasn't to confuse. There are other situations where they put similarly named individuals to confuse. Like they'll put, Jesus Garcia against Jesus Garcia. That's a situation where here I think the claim was that they were in the race to siphon off Latino votes.
Okay, well, all right. So,
which is, it's a distinction.
It's a distinction. I don't know how important that distinction is.
It's still some type of trickery or fraud.
Yeah,
right?
all right. Jason Gonzalez is the man who was running against Michael Madigan, and the other candidates were named Rodriguez. I'm just using the last name, and Barbosa. Anyway. Madigan trounced Gonzalez. Madigan won 65% of the vote to Gonzalez's 27%. And in the aftermath, Gonzalez filed a civil rights claim against Madigan. What's essentially his...
So he filed a lawsuit initially with a bunch of different claims, including state claims like defamation. But at the end, it all whittled down to one issue that he was allowed to proceed on after even amending the complaint twice. And the issue that went on and eventually went to summary judgment before it went to trial, it was dismissed before it could get to trial, was the issue of whether or not the act of promoting two sham candidates violated Gonzalez's equal protection right to run for office. If this act of deception, trickery, fraud on the public interfered with the electoral process in such a way that it violated Gonzalez's right to run and maybe even people's right to vote in a fair election, right? And so they ran on the basis of a case that set a test out for a sham candidate situation. And it has 4 elements. You have to meet all 4. And the reason why the case got dismissed was because it couldn't meet one, perhaps 2 of the elements that are required. And so, without getting too boring, basically, he met the first couple of elements.
Being Gonzalez.
Right. So, according to the test from this case, the first thing you must establish is the ballot must include a sham candidate, defined to mean a candidate who has promised to step down in favor of another person if elected. The issue here was, did they really decide that they were going to step down if they won? And the judge says, well, ultimately, that's not as important. It's just important that it's a sham candidate. Okay, Gonzalez meets that. He proved that. The fraud must be undisclosed. there was a conspiracy among individuals. He met that. There must be a reasonable possibility that the sham candidacy affected the outcome of the election. He said it's questionable, and the alleged misconduct must constitute state action. They never got to that. Actually, number 2 is the one. The fraud must be undisclosed. So it was a conspiracy in the sense that they had to depose Marty Quinn and Kevin Quinn and Madigan.
These are operatives or political operatives. Marty Quinn, the alderman, Kevin Quinn, his
and
brother.
Certain other individuals within the
Madigan organization.
The Madigan organization. And from these depositions, the judge said, okay, yes, we can conclude that this was all done at the behest of Madigan and for his benefit. Mm-hmm. But this thing about it being undisclosed, the judge said, but it wasn't undisclosed in the sense that Gonzalez brought it up in the media immediately that these individuals were sham candidates, and therefore, at that point, the judge said it was no longer disclosed. It was in the realm of the public, and the public had the opportunity, and it was in the realm of the political world. And at that point, the public there was a light shined on it, and the public now could punish Madigan for having done this trickery if they so chose, and they did not choose to do that.
Absolutely.
And therefore, the case was dismissed.
I agree with, listen, before I get into what I agree, I just want to see what your thought is in this. Do you believe that, as the lawyer for Madigan says, that Madigan has these candidates have a constitutional right to be on the ballot, even if they have no intention to run a legitimate campaign? Don't they have a right to be on the ballot?
So I mostly agree with that. Where I have a problem with that particular line of argument in particular is in our county, in our state, we have an electoral system that makes it terribly hard for individuals to get on the ballot. And so while we live in a system that makes it hard for grassroots individuals to get on the ballot, I don't think that it should be fair to have also a system that allows incumbents to run sham candidates very easily when they're promoting the rights for these sham candidates who have no intention of winning, but you're working within and fomenting a system that generally denies individuals or makes it difficult for them to get on the ballot.
I'm with you 100% on there. So far, we're in agreement.
That's not only at the very least it's a hypocrisy. It may not be illegal.
Yeah.
And so there's a hypocrisy down here, and we're going up the slippery slope, right?
Yeah.
Or down the slippery slope. So in the middle, it's hypocrisy, but maybe immoral, unethical, and then illegal, right? And so
I don't know about the illegal.
I think it doesn't get to illegal. Well, in this case, it didn't, but it could have.
Well, let me put it this way.
It could have.
Let's explain a little bit of what you're saying so folks know exactly what you're saying, because I agree with your point about the hypocrisy. Michael Joseph Madigan has a lawyer named Michael Casper, and this Michael Casper has memorized the election code, and he uses his mastery of the election code as a weapon to knock off anyone, or not anyone, but many candidates who choose to run against Michael Madigan allies. He does it on the north side, the south side. He does it all over the city of Chicago. He does it for state rep candidates, state senate candidates. He does it for aldermanic candidates. Right. And this is a way that Michael Madigan consolidates his power by sicking Michael Casper, his election law expert, on candidates. And so you're absolutely correct. It's inconsistent and hypocritical for Michael Madigan to employ Casper like a watchdog to punish anyone who dares to run against a Michael Madigan ally, at the same time promoting a fraud campaign.
Right.
I completely agree with you. That's utterly hypocritical, but it's not necessarily illegal.
But in this case, it could have risen to illegality had Gonzalez not gone on the media, the news, and said, I think this is a sham, and brought that to light. Had he not been aware that it was a sham, for example, until after the fact, there's a very good chance he could have had a good case that goes to the jury on that. And then it would have been a situation where the sham or the trickery or the fraud, the intentional interference with our sacred electoral process rose to an illegality. But even if it doesn't rise to an illegality, I think that, again, our electoral process is supposed to be sacred, one of the fundamental things of our democracy. And for us to allow with impunity and this kind of interference, even if in the end it was still a landslide. Even if in the end this guy disclosed it and people were aware of it, the fact is that we allow it with impunity. We're allowing an interference. It might not be an interference like the Russians coming in and, okay? So there are different levels of interferences, but it still lies in the realm of an interference to our sacred system of voting, and that's what bothers me. So whether or not at this point it rose to an illegal action, okay, but this one got really close.
I think the issue is illegal or unethical. I definitely think it's unethical. I also think that Jason Gonzalez had his own issues, let's be honest.
Oh, yeah, right.
With the notion of shamness, because there were a lot of
Rauner
people,
was backing him.
Yeah.
And his deception, which wasn't it wasn't using the system, but it technically, well, it was, because he declared himself a Democrat in a primary when his intentions may have been to have run as as someone helping out the Republican Party.
Well, the reality is this, that as running against Michael Madigan at that moment in time in 2016, he was clearly, whether he would admit it or not, or believed it or not, was an ally of Bruce Rauner. And that's why I personally wrote my column saying that if I lived in that district, I would vote for Michael Joseph Madigan. I can't believe I'm saying this, because I've been fighting Michael Madigan and his powers that be for all these years. But on the issue of standing up for union rights in 2016 against Rauner, I would have stood with Madigan over Gonzalez, and I still would stand with Madigan over Gonzalez. And that's, I think, where you and I had our debate.
Yeah, I don't live in that district, and I although I have some relatives, and I think ultimately I said, well, just vote for Madigan. But because this guy, I knew he didn't have a chance anyway, and I didn't like a lot of the things that this guy, his baggage, in other words, his background. So I didn't like him for other reasons as well. But I have a lot of trouble with the fact that we allow incumbents to abuse of the system in this manner, particularly when Madigan kicked his butt. He didn't need sham candidates in the end. And most of the time it proves right, you don't need a sham candidate. 1 out of 10, when you do a sham candidate, it may have made a difference. That's why one of the prongs in this test is, would it have affected the outcome of the election? I think for most election law cases, that is one, you have to prove that it would have been detrimental. But for this happening, would this have changed the election, or could it have changed the election?
And the other point I made when I made this either in a column or in the air, I don't know if I made it to you, so I'll do it now, is that everybody has a low estimation of voters in this district. Michael Madigan has a low estimation of voters.
Clearly,
they're so dumb. Oh, that could be confused. Just put a Hispanic name in there. And I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe one time he was challenged by a woman with a Polish last name, and he put a Polish sham candidate.
And he might have put I don't know, because she was Mexican Polish, so it was like, he may have put a Mexican person there too, or a woman, because she was a woman.
Yeah, let's just throw a woman in there.
Let's just cover every basis.
Yeah, all the women will be like,
we'll put a woman, we'll put a Pole, and we'll put a Mexican.
Yeah, so this is old school Democratic tactics. They have a very low estimation of the intelligence of the Chicago voter. And by the way, I can understand why they would have a low estimation of the intelligence of the Chicago voter, given who the voters keep reelecting as their mayors. And so, just putting that out there, Adolfo. All right. Now,
and let me bring up another thing. Okay. People who come on your show or talk to you in interviews and then you publish your article, who defend the signature and the objection process that we have here in Cook County and in Illinois, always say, these rules, and the court has agreed that you must accumulate certain amount of signatures to prove your worthiness and or to show your true intentions of running. Well, here comes the F-bomb. Well, what the fuck, man? Because if that's the case, if that's the justification for having this onerous system of getting on the ballot, then how come you don't care about intentions when you you call a guy, hey, Madigan wants you to run. It's all phony and everything. We'll collect the signatures for you, but you just lend us your name.
Well, listen, I've had this argument with my good friend Ricky Hendon so many times. He's a master, the maestro of kicking people off the ballot, and I'm more of a libertarian. I believe in open ballots, and people should just be able to run. Now the other low estimation of the intelligence of the voters in this district comes from the Gonzalez camp, because their assumption is that follow me in this, folks, the 5.8% of the population who voted for Rodriguez, the sham candidate thrown in the race, and the 2% who voted for Barbosa were confused that they would have voted for Gonzalez. I'm saying, what if they were not confused? What if they just didn't vote for Gonzalez because they would view that as a vote for Rauner?
And they wanted to vote for a Latino, but not Madigan.
They didn't want to vote for Madigan.
Right.
So in that case, they could vote for Rodriguez.
Right.
No, and you know what? Adolfo, there are probably instances where I might vote for a sham candidate
just as an opposition vote, right?
Yeah, as an opposition.
And that's only because this type of sham was not the confusion type of exam. The confusion one would have been Gonzalez with another guy with the exact same name, and then the argument would be slightly different. But here, here clearly, if you voted for the guy, it was either because you didn't want to vote for Gonzalez and Madigan, or you were related to one or the other of the people. That's probably the likely reasons why you voted. Now, in a sham where it is about, well, Chuy's running against us, so let's put another Jesus Garcia, and then they'll be like, man, which one is it? And then I'll vote for Jesus number 2 as opposed to Jesus number 1. That's a different argument. You are intentionally confusing individuals.
Well,
right?
And I don't know if it comes into a constitutional issue, a racial discrimination issue. I remember back in the day, Robert Shaw, who was an alderman at a political powerhouse in the South Side.
Is he the guy with the nuts?
No, that's Bill Beavers.
Oh, Bill Beavers,
right.
okay.
But Robert Shaw was
The guy with the nuts.
He had a famous quote about, what was it? The hog with the most nuts or something like that?
With the biggest nuts.
With the biggest nuts.
William Beavers was an alderman on the 7th Ward, and he was a Cook County commissioner and had a way with words. And I believe he ended up, he got in trouble, and he may have gone to prison. But anyway, neither here nor there. Robert Shaw, a totally different politician from the south side of Chicago, put up a candidate to run against Jesse Jackson, whose name was Jesse Jackson.
Exactly. And that is another type of sham, but that one is intentionally meant to confuse you.
Yes.
Whereas this one is meant to siphon off a particular because of your ethnicity or whatever.
Well,
right?
also, I don't know. It is intended to confuse you. If you're just going to vote for the Hispanic guy, you have to. The notion is that
you don't know enough about who the Hispanic that you want to vote for, but you vote for this one instead.
Well, I know there's a Hispanic guy voting against Madigan, but which one is it? And frankly, if they're being honest, a lot of operatives for the regular Democratic organization would tell you. For instance, here's another conventional wisdom, which really shows the low estimation that operatives have for the intelligence of the Chicago voter. When you have many candidates running, we have 14 candidates running for mayor, there's a lottery. And whoever gets to be the number one name is considered a benefit. Like the voters of Chicago are so stupid, they're just going to vote for the first name they see on their ballot, no matter who that is. Agree with me that shows a low estimation of the intelligence of the Chicago voters? It does,
but although maybe with judges, in a race with judges where people aren't informed, that might actually be an advantage, a statistical advantage for them.
All right, in your humble opinion, by the way, since you mentioned it, should judges be appointed or elected? Go.
They should be appointed.
Well, appointed? Really? You don't trust the...
Well, the federal system is appointed, and it mostly works really well. There's generally this idea that well, maybe not with the Trump era here, it might not be true, but generally, under both Republican and Democratic administrations, the quality of a federal judge is much, much higher than the quality of a state judge. Generally.
Well, it's because the job pays more.
Well, that may be, but it's also a more prestigious office as well.
Yeah,
in the eyes of individual, because in the eyes of a plaintiff, if I have a choice, if I have a case that could go either in federal court or state court, I may not care. But if I'm a lawyer, I'll be like, I'm going to federal court unless I'm afraid to try in federal court. Then I go to state court.
Well, see, then that's just a decision. That's a purely tactical decision.
But the judges themselves, the quality of judges, if you line up the judges from the Northern District of Illinois and compare their resumes and their opinions and whatever versus any of the judges, the cream of the crop in the Circuit Court of Cook County, you'll get some good judges in Cook County, but overall, the elitism of you'll be all Ivy League people, all Supreme resumes, clerk for Supreme Court judges, blah, 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 blah.
Full disclosure, Adolfo Mondragon is an Ivy League person.
but I never clerked, and I'm certainly never not a judge in the Northern District.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on this one. I'm in general, I'm more for democracy than appointments. I would prefer the system we have, as insane as it is, and I acknowledge openly that most of us have no clue.
What percentage of individuals do you think actually read the CBA or the ISBA comments on judges and the grades that they give
I would
them.
say it's less than 10%.
Yeah,
and I go in there, and I used to have cheat sheets for so many. I probably had a big sway on like voters because people would call me like I knew that. Ben, you know everything.
And when we get a really bad judge, it's really hard to get them out of office. Only when the actual county, like this past time around, did the county point out one judge? They were like, we're not going to recommend them for.
Yeah, I can't remember that judge.
They made an effort, but there was at least 4 judges that were horrible that should have all
right. So if you were the judge in the Jason Gonzalez, Michael Joseph Madigan lawsuit, how would you have ruled?
Based on this case that sets out these prongs, I think that the judge actually made. Not, when I first read it, I thought, oh man, this judge is probably smoking crack or something. But after I read the reasoning behind it, I think that he came out with the correct outcome. I like the fact that he does point out that certain things a jury could have found, in particular, that Madigan, though he denied and said, I don't remember. I don't remember. But he's an idiot because he's a lawyer, and if he remembers in depositions, whenever you say I don't remember, that's the equivalent of an admission. You can't dodge a yes or no.
Is that for true?
Yeah,
I remember when Mayor Richard Daley, I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah, he did the same thing. Right?
When oh my God, the deposition, the Sun-Times did a great job with it. There was a deposition that Daley gave in that trial having to do with the Clout Cafe in Millennial Park,
right.
And the awarding of a contract to run a cafe, a very lucrative corner of Millennial Park, and somehow or other they gave it to not the lowest bidder, whatever, the best bidder for the city.
Yeah.
And so when they were asking him a question, deposing him, everything, I can't remember, I don't know, what what day is it today? I don't know.
Exactly. You can't dodge by saying I can't. That's recognized as a dodge. You could say it, but for all purposes, the judge said, I construed those depositions as demonstrating that even though they denied that they were doing it at the behest of Madigan, you could come to the conclusion that Madigan directed this.
All right, and that's the conclusion I came to from the very beginning.
Yeah, but they deny it. And they could have the luxury of saying, "Well, you can't prove it" or whatever. Now we can.
Yeah, Well, it was pretty obvious. And this is again a tactic.
And shame on Madigan. Like I said, he doesn't need these guys to run as shams.
Well, this gets to
his. The playing field is so unlevel in his favor with the amount of resources and money and people that he has behind. The fact that he does this is such bullshit.
Yeah. I'm with you 100%. And Ed Burke was really guilty of this. Ed Burke put people through so much hell to get on the ballot.
And Madigan, remember with the young woman, the UFC grad, the Polish Mexican.
Yeah.
I mean, if I remember correctly, they practically drove her crazy. She said that they would drive streets and sand trucks at like 2 a.m. in front of her house. They had a guy creep her out by, she had to get a stalking. I thought either she did or she was going to get a stalking order against the guy from the organization for walking really close to her everywhere she went. I mean,
and by the way,
that's BS.
Yes, I'm completely in agreement with you. This is some of the worst offenses of the regular Democratic organization going back for years. And by the way, I got to tell you, what's interesting and curious little side, the lawyer for Jason Gonzalez is a gentleman named Tony Pareca. And he was a Cook County commissioner for many years. And
he infamously marched down to the Board of Elections on election night because he thought that he was his election for board president was perhaps tainted, right, with fraud.
Wow, what a memory. And who was he running against in that election?
Oh, jeez. Junior.
Todd Stroger, correct.
Yeah.
And I remember that very well, that moment. But Tony Pareca, he lost that election. He was a Cook County commissioner. He, at one point, very early on in his life, flirted with being a Democrat. I think he was a member of Lipinski's organization, if I have it correct. Now
he's from that side.
Yeah, and he became a Republican. And so, Tony, you're still fighting the fight. You and I don't see the world the same way. That is for certain. But I have to give you credit for fighting the fight consistently.
And that's the other thing too.
I'd like to point one thing out.
Sure.
As a Republican, I welcome you. You're going to fight cases like this on behalf of Jason Gonzalez, who may or may not have been
the ideal candidate or whatever.
Ideal candidate. I'm looking for you to get involved in the cases, the battles against voter suppression of black voters in Milwaukee and in Detroit. I welcome. Suddenly you have an interest in civil rights as it pertains to election law. Don't you think he should take that same skill set and help Democrats? And civil rights is civil rights, right?
Absolutely.
All right, very good. Adolfo Mondragon, and I agree on that one. We're going to take a break. We'll come right back.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
Hey, everybody, what you're about to hear are the piano stylings of Jeff Manuel. Man, listen to Jeff go. Jeff Manuel has been playing piano around Chicago for years. He's played for conventions, for celebrities, played in basement bars with blues bands. He's played at prestigious social clubs, fine restaurants, and in the intimacy of private homes. Book Jeff Manuel at jeffemanuelpianist.com. Don't worry, I'll spell his name at the end of this commercial. You know what Chicago Magazine said? They said that Jeff Manuel is, quote, as comfortable with Chopin as he is with Cole Porter. He's excellent and his performance is joyous. He offers an elegant stream of compositions and interpretations that entertains the mind but won't hurt the ears. To hear more of Jeff Manuel's work and to book Jeff for your next event, go to jeffmanuelpianist.com. I'm going to spell it out for you, people. J-E-F-F M as in Mary, A, N as in Nancy, UELPIANIST.com. Take it away, Jeff Manuel.
Today's Ben Joravsky Show was brought to you in part by Chicago Architecture Center. Get to know your city on one of Chicago Architecture Center's 65 walking tours. Hear the unforgettable secrets and stories behind Chicago architecture from our expert docents. Book your tour at architecture.org/tours. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm actually on a tour right now. Oh, wow, look at that building. Get a special discount for Illinois residents from July 15th to August 15th. All Illinois residents get 50% off select walking tours. Visit architecture.org/IL-resident.
Did you know that 40% of the people in Illinois opt to be cremated? Well, it's true. And Chicagoland Cremation Options honors their wishes by providing cremation services directly to the general public. Chicagoland Cremation Options provides an affordable, ethical, and easy cremation arrangement, whether in person or online. Save thousands and streamline the process by going directly to Chicagoland Cremation Options. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend, Douglas Klein. Here's how you reach them. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time, ChicagolandCremationOptions.com.
All right, everybody. Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show for Tuesday, August 27th is just moments away. But before we get into that, we need to thank the following unions once again for jumping on board and helping bring back our program. It's the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 in District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150, and a giant, giant thank you to our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Hour number 2 of the Ben Joravsky Show starts right now. It is Tuesday, August 27th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. In this hour of the program, it's the return of our good friend Mark Sims, and we welcome back the Southside political know-it-alls, Jerry Brown and Tom Shepard. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist, Ben Joravsky.
Yes, indeed. It's a decidedly South Side theme today at the Ben Joravsky Show. I'm not from the South Side of Chicago. I'm not even from Chicago. Dennis is not from the South Side of Chicago. He's not even from Chicago. But Adolfo Mondragon, who's been in the studios from Back of the Yards, and our next guest, Mark Sims. Yes, the Mark Sims, the legendary Mark Sims, is the pride and joy of Roseland, Illinois. And, of course, as you know, Adolfo, he was a distinguished graduate of Fenger High School. And to this day, they talk about him in glowing terms. Mark Sims, what a brilliant young scholar he was at Fenger High. And still to come on the show, Jerry Brown and Tom Shepard, the political know-it-alls from the South Side. So, Mark, welcome back to the show.
I got candy. So you got the dish. Adolfo, you brought candy, man? That's your candy over there, right?
Yeah.
You brought that.
Don't eat the candy.
No, that's it. Here you go, Dennis. This is for you, Dennis. This is for you, Dennis. There you go.
Oh, man.
Get it? Yeah. Radio guys hate that.
Mark Sims.
We literally lost every listener.
Look at this light.
If you're not following us on, if you hear this on the download of the podcast, Mark Sims has brought another huge bag of lifesavers. They are, again, white lifesavers. Ricky Hendon is still objecting to the fact we do not have black lifesavers on the Ben Joravsky.
Are there black lifesavers?
I don't know. Ricky Hendon, when he came in, he saw the lifesaver. How come you don't have black lifesavers? I'm like, I blame Mark Sims. Oh, yeah, he brought the lifesavers. So anyway, welcome back to the show, Mark. It's good to have you back. And before we dive into the Lori's grades and Lori's budget and all these other issues today that you and Adolfo will be discussing.
No, Adolfo and you will be discussing.
No, you're going to have
You
to
think
come
I
up with
go
a
into
grade.
the deep dive?
But you
I go to the shallow parts of the political waters.
Talk about your new podcast.
Yeah.
You know, it's still developing. You were on last night? When did you do that? Last night?
I believe the interview was yesterday
morning. Jeez. It sucks. No, you didn't suck. I'm still working this out. See, Adolfo,
technical.
I had so many people. I had some friends who were testing out, doing stuff. Everything worked out kind of perfectly until Ben got on the show. Then everything sucked. And I think Mercury was in retrograde. I don't know what the hell happened. It sucks, but you know what? Because the audio's low. So, but it's on what's that thing called, YouTube?
Yes.
They can find it. The purpose of the thing is that people even only listen to like 2 seconds of the interview. The whole purpose of that is to go down below the video and click the link to see and hear the show. Your show, not my show.
Okay.
Your show. The purpose is your show, not my show.
Okay, well, I'll take it.
I'm going to beg you to come back and we're going
So
to talk
is it
about
like a
something
small
else.
appetizer before you like sit down and listen to the main course?
It's just my thing is just a hobby to keep me out of trouble. But 2.5 years after I left the public access show, I've been doing nothing. And the only thing that's been keeping me kind of alive is Ben show. I'm serious, man. Coming on here, it's like, yeah, I'm going to be on the radio. I'm going to be on the podcast. I feel good. I mean, it's
So to get your
sick.
fix, basically.
Well,
It's a sickness.
All right,
Adolfo.
the question that he asked me, Adolfo, I'll get your thoughts on this. Now that I'll put Mark under the hot seat. He asked me if I'm an integrationist. All right, that's what Mark Sims asked me, and that's what we discussed in our discussion. He said he accused me of being an integrationist, and
Was that a loaded term, a pejorative? What does it mean?
In the sense
Go ahead.
that he wants people to live as one. I forgot that.
Yeah, that's what he
I meant
said.
to bring in the lyrics to Zoom.
You mean to
the
force people to
Commodores.
live together? Is that
No,
what you're saying,
we all
or-
just love each other, and there's no strife, there's no worry, there's no trouble. It's just It's all good.
Yeah. I don't know if you were saying that as it's a negative thing. I don't think you were saying that we shouldn't have that as a goal, but you were saying it's unrealistic, because his exact quote to me was that people want to live among their own. I got that correct?
Birds of a feather flock together.
Right, but that's only because we're programmed to think that way.
And that is exactly how I responded. Bart,
No,
did I say that?
That's
If you grew up in a neighborhood that was just diverse, just like these millennials are now more and more, then your belief system and where you think you should live would be far different than yours and mine growing up. Like my niece, for example, like growing up, I was homophobic because, Latinos in general, very machismo, all of that stuff. And my ideas of that developed over time with the education that I received and the people that I was exposed to. My niece, a millennial, post-millennial. She's
Z. I know
Z,
your niece. She does an
yeah.
imitation of me.
Her, to her, terms like Latinx and everything are what we should be using and talking about, and her views and sensitivities to other people's, struggles or whatever are far different than when I was growing up, and they're far more enlightened, I think.
I agree with you on that one.
So it's just a matter of exposure.
Yeah, I did say at the end of the interview that I think that race relations will be a lot better as we go along, as this country becomes less European American.
Right. And as we marry each other also, and people having biracial kids and stuff is a big step towards
Absolutely, I agree with that. So I am, yes,
We're
I
long,
am an integrationist.
we're long, especially Chicago. Long.
Oh no, Chicago is
long, way.
But one of the things we talked about, and seeing I have two Southsiders in the studio, is that the demographic trend, and I talked about this on your show, Mark, on the South Side, and many black neighborhoods on the South Side, black people have moved away, and so there's these like vacant homes, vacant blocks, etc. And guess who's moving in?
That's mainly Bronzeville.
Hispanics.
Yeah.
Well, that's Inglewood.
Yeah,
That's why
Inglewood.
I always tell people, I have some friends with Inglewood activists, and I said, no, Inglewood prospers as a Latino community, not as a black community. We're done. And it's okay because, like I said, these trends.
In the article, the Sometimes article still says that Latinos still make a very small percentage.
Yeah, did you hear that one?
Of the neighborhood.
I know, because I'm not going to equate this. I'm not going to say another radio station, but they had this Yale study that in Bronzeville, gentrification stops at when the black population is 40%. Meaning that in a lot of neighborhoods, most of us have to be gone until other people move in. Right. It's like my house. I told you this on the air. When I bought my house 30 years ago, it was valued at $80,000. I knew it wasn't going to go up. Guess what? 30 years later, it's valued at $80,000. Because who wants to live with us? We don't want to live with each other. So, and that neighborhood is people move there by default.
There's a caveat to that. I read an Atlantic Month article a while back that said that professionals, people of color, Latinos and blacks in particular, tend to go back and live in their neighborhoods because they feel more comfortable in their own neighborhoods than they do in maybe hoity-toity neighborhoods that they could afford, because they don't look like everybody else and they're not treated the same. So they prefer to live in their neighborhoods. Look, I'm a lawyer and I've never left the Southwest Side.
The discussion is that more race than class? Is it a class?
It's a mixture. It's a mixture, of course.
Well, that's the Mark. That's the Mark Sims view that birds of a feather flock together. That people want to live among their own. That's what we were at the discussion yesterday.
Yeah, but if your own is like, oh, my black neighbor, my Latino.
But see, I don't buy that, and I'll tell you there's forces, and I go back to what you started off by saying. There's forces greater than all of us. So, for instance, I was telling Mark when I first moved to the city of Chicago back in the early '80s, the North Side was a lot more diverse and integrated than it is now. There were a lot more black people and Hispanic people living all over the North Side.
Right.
And what
even
happened?
Wrigleyville, right?
Wrigleyville, even out of that sentence, Wrigleyville, the area around Wrigley Field was predominantly Hispanic, and there were black people in Lincoln Park. There were black people in Uptown, and there's still black people in Uptown and Rogers Park, but not nearly as much as there used to be. And that changed through economics. Right. And so I don't think there was ever an issue. Or do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, because that's your side of town, which I'm sort of unfamiliar with, especially back in those days. But who's the gentleman you had on the other day for the boldest one? He was a South. He talked about Scottsdale and Scottsdale 79th and Cicero.
Oh,
I remember the
Phil Cadner.
Phil Cadner.
Yeah, that was a bonus interview we did over the weekend.
And this is how race works. When I saw that the Phil, how you say his name?
Cadner.
I saw it on Twitter, I believe, or maybe Facebook. And I was like, who's this Uncle Fester looking dude? I ain't listening to that. I'm serious. You know what I'm saying? That's the first. No, he's a nice guy, but I'm saying, I said, okay, Ben is interviewing Uncle Fester. I ain't feeling that. So I didn't listen to it. But today, without the picture, before I came downtown here, I listened to that interview. Only got like maybe a quarter done. It was great. Excellent, because he talks about the South Side, Scottsdale. He's like, nobody knows. All I remember the Scottsdale Mall at 79th and Cicero, right? And which is not far from Burbank and blah, 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 blah. But when I was as a kid, that was all white, all day and all night. You know what I'm saying? And that's just how it is. And a lot of those white ethnic neighborhoods are all Latino now. They say Latino, but it's mainly Mexican.
Well, let me promote that Phil Cadner interview, because if anybody doesn't listen to it because of the way he looks, I have to say this. It was a very interesting interview, Mark, because he talked about how he grew up on the Southwest Side. Back in the days, he was one of the residents who had a really low opinion of Martin Luther King and the marchers that came through.
He was a kid. He was a
teenager, and he was just sort of going along with the trend. And he said things that he apologized for some of the things that he said and he thought. And he said that there was another young man from the same general neighborhood, a white kid, who had his own eye-opening transformation, and that would be Michael Flager, who is now the priest at St. Sabina Church on the South Side in a black neighborhood, a black parish. And it's interesting that he woke, as the millennials like to say, from an experience that was really.
He got that from his mom. His mom straightened him out.
Yeah. So anyway,
that was very good, very honest, and that's why we talked on my little podcast. Just ask a few questions or ask a few questions. It's on the social media or whatever. You'll see it. The point is that a lot of those folks are gone. In fact, most of them are gone, and things. More things change, the more they stay the same. Like you said, most of the people live there moved out, and people are going to move. Neighborhoods are going to flip. But like I said, a lot of people have passed on. I said on the show, a lot of people passed on. We talked about Trump on the podcast, my podcast. And this Trump experience or experiment, whatever term you wanted to use, is going to end. Like next year, hopefully, Adolfo?
Yeah, I think so too.
And things hopefully we start moving forward, right? Now, remember, I did say on the show that one of my children go to an all-black grammar school, high school, because I make no apologies. That's what I'm comfortable with. And they went off to college. They went to integrated liberal arts schools, like the one you went to, similar to the one you went to. Yeah. The point is that I'm just honest, because remember, like I said on the podcast, I remember growing up, Elijah Muhammad, Jesse Jackson, Breadbasket, Black Power, right? And speaking of Black Power, when I came here, I had to go through a lot of security to get up in here like normal. I thought the FOI was going to show up and pat me down.
I got to look like I was going to commit something.
You got to have that with the guys with bow ties and pat you down, man. Yeah. Hey, man.
We're going to, what is it, D? The wall, we're going to throw the wall away. Usually, generally.
You do need security. I mean, I'm joking.
It makes sense. Journalists are a target. So
no, generally have Leah or Miles to help our guests walk through, get through it. And you don't even think about it because there's such gracious people that lead you through. And but Miles.
No, but I got the dirty. I didn't get the dirty look today because Dennis came and got me. But last time I got the dirty look, just like you got me. I was like, okay, it's all right.
But unfortunately, I knew how to maneuver. I was like, I distanced myself and look this way.
But I'm saying, I'm in my late 50s, man. With the people like, I'm not gonna rob anybody. Damn. That's why when I talk about racial stuff, I know it's getting better. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's slowly. All right. Speaking of issues that are getting better, or maybe not, everybody's talking about giving Lori Lightfoot a grade. Mark Simpson's been really eager to give her a grade, but we'll start with you, Adolfo. There have been grades given throughout the show. I don't know if you heard.
Can you disclose what you gave her just before?
Well, I gave her a grades on different. It was like back in the old days.
Right.
So I didn't give her an overall grade. I gave her grades like on English and Spanish, or the different classes. You have different grades.
Yeah, so I saw in the news that some public interest groups gave her a D.
Yes,
that was
the progressive. Basically, the progressive community of the city of Chicago gave her a D. Yeah,
right. I think I've been thinking about it. I think that if you give her a grade in relation to like Rahm, it'd be a higher grade. But I think if you just gave her a grade on what the standard of any mayor should be, or a good mayor, or whatever we think one, I think she gets a C for her first 100 days.
Yeah.
I think that she's done a few things, just enough to keep her at a C level and not below, to a D like the progressives gave her. What I like about what she has done is one, her war against the alderman's prerogative.
Mm-hmm.
Although, like you said, is it really a prerogative? It's really, she's claiming the entire veto for herself now, right? Because before it was always subject to to the mayor's veto.
Yes.
So, but the fact that it's shaking up the city council, making them think, oh, maybe we shouldn't be so buddy or one-on-one with, just as Porfirio Diaz, the dictator of Mexico, used to say that the council or the legislator was his stable of horses.
Wow.
So I do like that. But there's a bunch of other stuff that I don't like. I don't like her reaction to the violence in Chicago and just singing the same old song about how it's just these, judges that are letting all these people go and we need more gun laws. How many gun laws can you put in the books before you admit that the laws at this point aren't going to deter individuals? It's other forces that are at work. I think also her recalcitrance, just like Ram, I think that it's kind of, you have to be careful because she's a woman and you can't say, well, women, you're making fun of, just that's a genderist thing. But I think that she generally, just like Ram, has an issue with admitting when she's wrong. And that is a very bad thing to have when you're a leader.
Mark, your thoughts?
See, Lori Lightfoot took a picture with me right here,
Yeah.
Adolfo, right over here.
yeah.
So I have nothing bad to say about her at all. It's personal.
I remember that.
Oh, and a good thing, I think that putting Wagaspack as the finance chair was probably the best thing she's done.
All right.
No, but all jokes aside, that you had Lori Glenn on your bonus show I listened to this morning, and she's always good. At the very end, she talked about all these groups coming together. She said they would start like 4 years ago. I didn't know these groups came together. All these groups coming together, I imagine non-for-profits, to stop the crime in Chicago. Now, and I think she mentioned something about Lori Lightfoot in the mayor's office, but I wish she would really, really, really work. And a lot of PR, because a lot of this stuff is PR. If people feel crime is going down, maybe crime will go down. People are like, it ain't going, it's still drama, So you have to start saying it's getting better. And hopefully she works with these 501c3s, because I live in not far from my house. Folks started shooting the other day. And in fact, about a month ago, I forgot to look it up in the Sun-Times, that somebody shot, it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, right? It was like 6 shots, Adolfo, pow, 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 pow. Then about a half a second later, about 4 more. Pow, 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 pow. Just to make sure they got it. Just to make sure. Yeah. And you get up, it's red tape. And red tape is bad when you see the police there and there's red tape. It's really bad. So that's a block away. And that happens. And so for a lot of Chicagoans, they may get robbed on Michigan Avenue, they get robbed in Lincoln Park, but they don't have gunshots. People get killed on their block. You know what I'm saying? In the middle of the night. It happened. But somebody got shot up a house that not far from me the other day. No, long story.
All right. So, Mark Sims, when you hear that debate that Adolfo was alluding to, the debate, it was basically a debate between Lori and Tony. They were back at it, where Tony Preckwinkle said, you know what? Lori Lightfoot started by saying it's the judges. They're letting defendants, even though they have gun violations, and the defendants go back to their old bad habits. And Tony Preckwinkle said, no, that's just a tiny fraction of people that get let out on bail. And the real problem is we don't have enough detectives to investigate cases. And so there's no accountability for people who commit shootings. Where do you fall on this debate?
I don't fall on none of that stuff. I mean, all that stuff is a distraction, because they always talk about the schools are good. I think the black male dropout rate, or they fudge the numbers. It's about 50%. It was 50% 50 years going out in school. It's about 50% now. And so my thing is I go after the teachers union. You should see my blog. You're going to hate me being see my blog about the teachers.
I'm pro-teacher.
Yeah, I dog them out. I told them to go sit down. If they're not going to innovate, go sit down. In the sense that all I really care about, how are the black boys doing in school? Are they reading at grade level? Everyone knows if you can't read by 3rd grade very well, you're going to struggle the rest of your life. I know this personally, okay? I struggle. I'm still struggling. I can't stand reading, right? And so the point is that I care about how the boys are doing in school. And if you're not talking about that, I really don't want to hear it. And all these 501c3s, all these things they doing is really about replacing or filling the gap for a child who doesn't have wonderful parents with resources. That's all it is. You have to teach people how to act. You got to teach people to go to bed, teach people to meditate, teach people to act right, whatever. And that's what the 501c3s do. And they have to totally change things. When you go, if like I said, most young people in the CPS, they weren't blessed like Adolfo to go to Yale, right? Well, that's what I want to interview Adolfo about going to Yale. He went to Yale.
University of Chicago.
And the University of Chicago. Most of us are not going to do that. Most of us are going to not even get an associate's degree, not even be blessed enough to go to Lewis and Clark Community College.
Yeah,
was that Godfrey, Illinois?
Yeah, that's where I went.
Yeah. But wait, in defense,
you know what I'm saying? So we have to have a different education. So we have to help those young people who are not going to get that.
But in defense of Adolfo, he pulled himself. He literally did it on his own. He was the first from his
right. So look, there's a conservative side of me that agrees with Mark in the sense that when I was growing up, it wasn't easy. It wasn't like resources. I wasn't one of these kids that they pulled out of the ghetto and put into a nice little, whatever. I had to go through the system, and many times it was a combination of things. It was luck, caring teachers, awesome caring CPS teachers
who are union members,
who spotted a gift in me and said, "We're going to help this person go somewhere." And also, I worked my ass off, right?
Yeah.
So there's a conservative side of me that says, yeah, all these kids, I grew up in the ghetto and I grew up with gang violence and other stuff, but I stuck it out, and why can't they, right? There's a side of me that understands that argument, but there's also a side of me that recognizes that my success wasn't just my ass pulling myself from my bootstraps.
Yeah,
there were many, many things that had to happen. My success story, educational success story to happen. And like I said, part of it was that there had to be caring enough teachers to, as one of my friends put it, all it took was a teacher putting a line underneath your name as opposed to crossing out your name.
See, and just listen to him, Mark. This is my issue with people who bash teachers in general, and Chicago Teachers Union in particular. Every time there's a kid who flunks out, or every time there's a kid who commits a crime, they get mad at the teachers. Oh, well, that's the teacher's fault. Then you look at a guy like Adolfo, and Adolfo is the first person in his family to go to college, went to Yale, went to University of Chicago, okay? But you don't hear the teacher union bashers thinking about the union teachers who taught this kid when he was 7-year-old Adolfo Mondragon that nobody knew, taught him all, encouraged him to read, encouraged him to write. So you only hear them bashing the teachers when something goes wrong, right? When's the Chicago Tribune ever going to write an editorial extolling the virtues of unionized teachers? You're not going to find it. So you can't have it two ways.
No, yes, I can, because the unions. I saw Jesse Sarkey walking down the street the other day. I left it alone. I didn't want to say nothing to him to his face. I had my big chance. I didn't do it. But the thing about it, the union is there to help the teachers.
Oh, that's correct.
They're not there to innovate education. They're not there. That's not their job. They're not saying, guess what? We're still teaching sort of the same way we did 50, 100 years ago. We have to change because, like I say, most of these young people are not going to get a bachelor's degree. It's not happening. So how are you training them for the jobs of the future? Yeah. And without a universal basic income, they ain't going to make it.
Well, I got news for you right now. The Chicago Teachers Union is fighting with Lori Lightfoot to guarantee that every school has a certain number of nurses, and every school has a certain number of counselors, and every school has librarians. Now, if they're not standing up for the kids by doing that, I don't know what you could say.
Well, I know. I couldn't stand my librarian at Wright Elementary School. Couldn't stand that. I don't know that woman's name, but I still,
still blame. See what I'm saying? Still blaming some teacher.
I think there's a lot of resentment there. Look,
a lot of bitterness too.
There are inefficiencies, and there's corruption at some level in all unions across all sorts of industries. Is a fact, right? And you could see there are some so-called lazy teachers out there, but that is on the margins. That exists on the margins everywhere. I think that what I think Mark is decrying is the fact that it wasn't teachers, but administrations like Daley's and Roms that took away teaching jobs and put young kids that were Teach for America and said they're going to go in there to Englewood and we're going to burn them out and churn them out, and that's going to somehow save us money but also keep us afloat by keeping teachers in there. And that was the wrong approach. Instead of taking that Teach for America kid and making them a great unionized teacher,
I agree with you in that.
Instead they just burned them and churned them and went in there.
I'm totally union.
I'm not against unions. I'm for innovation.
Okay, but I don't know what innovation there is in the system that Adolfo's describing. Like, only the teaching profession is the only profession where they decide that experience doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like a lawyer. Yeah. You have a lawyer, 10 years, 15, 20 years on the job. This guy, this woman, they don't really understand the court system. That's the one you're going to go to. You go to a Phil Corboy, the legendary lawyer who used to sue airlines, et cetera, and so forth. That's personal injury lawyer. Yeah, that's who you go to, right? But when it comes to teachers, oh no, we don't want experience. We want a young person who has no experience whatsoever.
Right. And let's put them in the
to me how
let's put them in the roughest, toughest areas.
Toughest areas.
The other thing too is I think that we're also Mark misplaces some of the hate that shouldn't be going to the union, but should be going to the bureaucracy of what a school system is. Yeah. And they're the ones that are anti-innovation, or they don't want to allow teachers to experiment with maybe saying introducing chess as a teaching method or something like that. They're like, no, we must stick by this old formula.
And you would agree, for every Adolfo, there's thousands that just didn't make it.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Over my lifetime, I've looked back at my 8th grade graduation picture. And, reminisce, unfortunately, some of these individuals died very young because of gang violence and whatever. But the more I go back, if people who maybe at one point I thought didn't make it, made it. It took a while, but they turned their life around. They became, they went back to school, or they got a trade or whatever, and they got out of that lifestyle, whatever.
So when you take a look at
now when I look at it, more people, I think, have made it than when I look back like 10 years ago.
We're about 15 years apart? I don't know.
I'm 45, going to be 45.
Okay, we're 12, 13 years apart. Yeah. So, but I like the way, what's the gentleman named Phil? The guy was
Cadner.
Now, he talked about how schools were back in the day, because I started in '67. Yeah. So they were probably maybe a little bit better. I don't know.
Yeah, but look, I was telling somebody my SAT story. So I went to Curie High School, which is a relatively new school. It was built in the 70s. Mm-hmm. It's the second large, well, I don't know if it still is, but it was at the time the second largest school in the whole state after Lane Tech, right? The biggest population. It was modern everything. And yet when I wanted to go to the East Coast to apply to schools there, I had to take the SAT. I went to my counselor. I said, the school counselor, the college counselor. And I said, I need an application for the SAT because I want to apply to Yale and Harvard and Georgetown. And he said, follow me. He led me to a broom closet, and he went in there, stumbled around literally with brooms and and he pulled out the one that they sent him from the SAT, and he said, "Here you go."
That's the application.
That's the application. Good luck, vaya con Dios. Everybody else here is taking only the ACT, which I did too, and I did better on that. But I was basically said, "Here you go." And these other SAT, they have the other exams that go along with the SAT. I forgot what they call it, the achievement test or something like that. No mention of that or whatever. So it wasn't like things were handed on a platter or anything. I had to do a lot of shit on my own.
No, there's this general notion that there's a time in the history of Chicago, I've heard this ever since I moved here, when things were better. And it's a mystical, magical time because I don't know when anything was ever better. It's like people who talk about murder in the city of Chicago like it's something that just happened. And ever since I've lived here, Mark Sims, you've heard me, and people have been killing each other in the city of Chicago.
I heard years ago on one of the radio stations here, I'm not going to name the name, and I heard Ramsey Lewis saying his high school, I think it was Wales High School, on what's that, Augusta and Ashland. Right. I think it was Wales.
Ramsey Lewis went to Wells High School?
It may not be. That's what I sort of remember.
Okay, all right, yeah.
And somebody on Facebook.
Frank, look at one.
Yeah, look it up, yeah. So he said he had an orchestra
yes,
at Wales, right? The great jazz pianist.
Right.
So it was a day when everything was maybe all white.
Listen, you know what?
You know what I'm saying?
I think about that a lot too when I hear particularly talk about music curriculum, and when I hear about all the great jazz musicians that came out of Chicago public schools,
Benny Goodman.
And they extol the virtue. Yeah, Benny Goodman, Harrison.
He went to Hall House. Did you know that? That's where he learned how to play but he was in the public school system,
and so they extol the virtues of the public school system and how they learned music in public school.
But that's because
took music out of the Chicago public school.
But part of that too is, and you make a good point. Growing up with my grammar school teachers are all teachers that came out of like the Depression or World War II era, right? they, no matter where they were in the economic stratosphere, for some reason, many of them had piano lessons when they were growing up or whatever. Virtually every single grammar school teacher that I had knew how to play the piano. And so they would sing for the, the things that we would do on holidays or whatever. And so I think that there's a part of it that's a generational thing. I think that whole generation, they all got like music lessons and music training, and then when they became teachers, were able to.
There's a great book about Detroit, which I urge everybody to read, about the city of Detroit in 1964, before the Detroit radically changed in so many ways. And I forget, I think it's called Detroit, a Great City, or something like that. But it talks about how so many of the stars of Motown are products of the Detroit public schools, and the teachers that taught them at an early age. They got a lot of musical training in the church, obviously, when they're in the choir. But when they went to the public schools, they learned like classical music and jazz, etc., from teachers taught them. So yes, I do believe we regress. Mark Sims, you're absolutely correct.
Partly right, but I'll take it.
I got to give you credit. You're right about that. Now, all right, I'm going to switch gears for a little bit while I have the two of you in the studio to talk a little national politics. I teased this before the show began, before you came on anyway. A poll that showed last week in the Democratic primary that Adolfo's favorite, Bernie Sanders. Adolfo's a huge Bernie fan. I'm curious about what Mark Sims' attitude is about Bernie Sanders. Is now tied with Elizabeth Warren for first place. It's only one poll. I admit that. It's August, a full year out before the election. But things have changed. Bernie went up 6 percentage points in this poll.
Right.
The
Plus
Monmouth
6.
poll,
Wow.
plus 6. Elizabeth Warren went up 5. And Jolton Joe Biden went down 13 percentage points. So it was effectively a tie. 20% for Bernie, 20% for Warren, 19% for Joe Biden. Adolfo, are you really feeling the burn now?
I'm feeling the burn because he's doing the work. The work that he started 4 years ago, he hasn't let up. And even though I get emails from him saying that money-wise, they're not doing as well as they were 4 years ago, but it's understandable. He has to now partition that with other very similar candidates like Warren, who are siphoning off some of that money. And yet, he's still on top, baby.
He's still on top, 20%.
He's still on top because his message is consistent. It speaks to a lot of people. I think the fact that it speaks to young people is, in and of itself, speaks volumes. That an old man could, communicate and be such a revered figure among the youth. That's incredible. And I think that clearly in the last 4 years, for all these people naysayers who said, when is this revolution coming, Bernie? You're never going to get all these people to come out and vote in the youth or whatever.
Who is that imitating?
That is imitating the Clintonites of the world.
I see, okay.
That were the naysayers. The whole political strata on the Democratic side has been universally changed by Bernie. Yeah. Bernie, $15 living wage. Bernie, Medicare for all. Bernie, all these issues that were so radical and we couldn't pay for them and blah, 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 and all these reasons for why Bernie couldn't win all of a sudden are viable.
All right, Mark T. Sims, are you feeling the burn?
No, but I'm gonna vote. The thing about it, Joe Paul is almost dead. I mean, politically dead. Yeah. In the sense that if he doesn't win Iowa, definitely New Hampshire, it's going to burn. Over. Yeah. It's over. And I think California moved up their primary into like Super Tuesday or something. Mm-hmm. So this thing could be. We may not even have a political fight at the convention in Milwaukee. It could be over soon. So if Joe wants to win, he's got to win one of the two. Mm-hmm. One of the two, because let's say he wins South Carolina, but that's only if he wins, New Hampshire or Iowa. If I was in that campaign, I'd be sweating bullets. And that shows you that people I'll vote for anybody, right? I don't care. Even
vote for
Joe
anybody
Paul.
over Donald Trump.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna guess. I think Mark likes somebody in the lines of Kamala Harris.
No.
Yeah, who do you favor?
No, right now it's Andrew Wayne.
Really?
Universal basic income. But last time I was here, I mentioned Warren and Yang. Yang has moved up. Warren has moved up in some polls.
Warren has moved up 5%.
Yeah, she's moved
in this
up.
one poll. Yeah.
That's right, because she is really working it. And the thing is this: universal basic income, universal basic health care. It's not going to be an overnight process, but we need to be marching toward that. Joe Pa is not marching toward that.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, speaking of integration, you must have got a kick out of this. I haven't talked to you about this. Mayor Pete, your favorite, from South Bend, Indiana, came to Chicago, went to the South Side. Let's give him credit. He went to the South Side, and he went to Harold Washington Cultural Center, 47th and
And it was for the white people.
All white people showed up.
I would consider. I mean, he's okay. He's a moderate, so we don't want to. And forget the moderates. The thing about
he's a con man. That's what he is.
The number one thing about Pete. Yeah. Mayor Pete was once his record came out about black folks, and you're a part of that, Ben. you, Stacey Davis Gates and her brother, Henry. That's right, Henry Davis. Henry Davis, not Henry Davis.
Henry gets upset. I'm not Gates.
That's just how the brain works,
yeah,
Henry.
I know.
The thing about it is, when I found out how bad he was, I said, "Dude, man, you toast, man, because you ain't go." He has a lot of money, so he's not going anywhere. Right. He's not going anywhere. But he does. At least Andrew Yang has a universal basic income, a lot of stuff. He's really smart. Warren is really working it. Joe Pa, I don't see a path. I don't see a path because I may not get. I'll be closer to probably getting Medicaid before I get to university. I'll be retired. Yeah. I won't get the universal basic income. I may not get it, but I know somebody's going to have it, and it may take years to do it. So we have to march toward that. Hard.
I think that the Democratic Party is going to come face to face, if this poll is correct, with a real challenging decision that it's going to have to make, and that is accepting Bernie Sanders as its nominee, and that's a challenge. Right. The guy, first of all, won't even come out and call himself a Democrat, so he's an independent.
Well, the other day he did, and he surprised you. Remember?
Yeah,
but that works for Warren's advantage. If Bernie gets really, really close, they may say
anybody but Bernie go for Warren.
To go for Warren.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as I've said before, Warren is toast. She goes up against Trump. That Pocahontas thing is.
I think that's old news.
Yeah, I think she can hit it.
Our good friend Frank is weighed in on Ramsey Lewis.
Oh yeah.
Mark Sims, what did you say your answer was?
I heard Wells.
You heard Wells. All right, I'm gonna do Regis filming here.
Is that your final answer?
Help me out, guys! I don't believe in myself. Yes, my final answer.
Ramsey Lewis went to. He went to Wells.
Oh, yeah!
Thank you, Frank.
I wasn't sure myself, but yeah.
Thank you, Frank. Mark Sims got it right, and as a result, we're going to give him some Belvita breakfast cinnamon brown cookies, which he gave to us. We'll be right back after this.
Attention Chicago innovators and creators, 2019 Chicago Ideas Week is coming soon. October 12th through the 17th, this annual Ideas Festival is back, and it's the largest, most affordable Ideas Festival of its kind. They bring in hundreds of thought leaders from around the globe and some local to share ideas and spark action all across Chicago. To get a better idea of what to expect, here's a bit of audio from last year's Chicago Ideas Week with special guest and Chicago comedian Cameron Esposito.
Everything that I have ever tried to do has had two motivations. One is I really do believe in trying to create social change, and then the other one is I'm scared and alone too, so I would like for you to join me. You know, every job that I have, I try to make sure to hold the door open. That's like my motto for like if I get through, you're coming with me, and I believe in that wholeheartedly, and especially if I have more privilege than you, like I'm holding the door open for you even wider.
October 12th through the 17th, it's 2019 Chicago Ideas Week. Tickets go on sale to members on August 22nd and to general public September 10th. Once again, if you're an innovator or creator in the city of Chicago or even outside the city, you must join us for Chicago Ideas Week, October 12th through the 17th. For tickets and event information, head to chicagoideas.com. That's chicagoideas.com, and we hope to see you October 12th through the 17th for 2019 Chicago Ideas Week.
It's Chicagoland's adult entertainment playground. It's the world-famous Admiral Theater, 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. The Admiral is homegrown from Chicago, and it's the most conveniently located club in all of the city. 15 minutes from the O'Hare Airport in downtown Chicago Loop. Voted Chicago's best strip club, the Admiral has showgirls galore and a variety of adult entertainment shows. The world-famous Admiral Theater, open every day from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. For events, showtime, and other information, visit AdmiralX.com. Must be 18 years of age or older to enter.
Hey guys, well, you know what's in the air? Football season. That's right. We're coming up close to it, which means that the best sports reporters in Chicago want to offer you, yes, you, our listeners, an exclusive deal on unlimited digital access to all of the stories that you love. Do not miss a game this season. Get all the big plays, scores, and stories from the Chicago Sun-Times. For a limited time only, you can lock in our lowest rate yet. That's YET yet. Only $29.99 for a full year of all the news and sports that you need to know. Stay up to date on the breaking stories, get the deep dives and investigations from Sun-Times reporters, and go deep inside City Hall with best-in-class political reporting. And, of course, cheer for the big games with the best sports team in the city. $29.99 for a full year of unlimited access. I looked and checked, went online. You cannot do better than that. So take advantage of this exclusive deal now at suntimes.com/Ben. Hey, and speaking of Ben, welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Yes, indeed, we are live from the Chicago Sun-Times. Adolfo Mondragon has left the room, but Tom Shepard has entered the room. And generally, Tom Shepard is joined by Jerry Brown, the Southside political know-it-alls. But Tom, apparently Jerry's at the airport or something like that?
He's supposed to pick up his aunt today.
I see.
And she got delayed in Orlando, and he had no alternative but to wait on her.
All right, very good. Well, he's a very devoted nephew to his aunt, Jerry Brown. We miss him, but Tom Shepard is here, political activist from Pullman community and part of the political know-it-alls. Mark Sims has been so gracious to stick around, so he's a political know-it-all as well, and he too is from the south side of Chicago. So
please,
and as a matter of fact, small world of small. What are you doing? You're just making those noises.
I gotta find a pen because I'll forget Tom's name. I'm cool. I'm cool.
Okay, you're all right.
No,
Here we go.
it's
There's
like
a pen.
now
You need a piece of paper.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Keep going, man.
Tom Shepard and Mark Sims are from the same high school. Isn't that amazing? What a small world it is.
Well, we were 16 years apart, though, right?
Fenger High.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
You came out with 64. You said?
Yep.
I can't do the math because I went to Fenger.
No, you graduated. You started in 60.
Started and graduated in 68.
68.
Okay, 68 to 80. What is that? Is that 12 years?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm shocked I got that one.
You don't blame a teacher for that?
Hell yeah, I don't blame him, man. Them finger teachers. I was already dumb before I got to Fenger.
All right, now we're having a spirited conversation and debate, Tom Shepard, about the role that teachers play in the lives of students. I was defending teachers vigorously. Mark was sort of taking the opposing point of view, a little hard on the teachers union, I may think. What's your general attitude about the teachers that you had coming up through the system? Graduate of 1968, Fenger High School, back in the day, Fenger, way down on the southeast side of Chicago. What was your thoughts about the role that teachers played in your life?
Well, I think the majority, and just about every teacher that I knew, was excellent, dedicated, and taught pretty well. My classmates, I think, did pretty well. Of course, we always had that one percentage that either dropped out or flunked, and I had a tough time getting through my 4 years. I went to summer school all 4 years just to get enough credits to get through. And so I graduated right after the rest of the 68 graduating class after I finished summer school. But I think the teachers were excellent. My grammar school teachers were unbelievably good. And
so you didn't blame teachers when you think about your academic struggles as a young scholar at Fenger High, that every summer you had to go to summer school because you were screwing up during the regular year.
Yeah.
Your knee-jerk reaction was not to blame the teacher?
No, I don't blame the teachers. Like Mark got stumped a little bit on his math a little while ago. Yeah. That was my bad suit too. My math was I had a tough time with math for algebra gave me trouble, so I took it, 1, 2, 3 times. I took geometry twice or 3 times before I got it. And
Oh, but that third time was really the kicker.
oh yeah, I got A's, straight A's the third time.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it
finally clicked in. But no, I don't blame the teachers at all. I think the teachers were good. I had troubles at home and outside of school, and it affected me in my studies.
Well, you wouldn't be the first kid at Fenger or any school that had that happen. By the way, class of '68, dude, you were right in the middle of the hippie generation. Were you anti-war? Were you a hippie?
We were. 68 was a pivotal year for me. It was exciting, and it was also very frightening because most of us in my groups anyway were waiting to get out of school and to see if we were going to get drafted and sent over to Nam to get our butt shot off, and so it was frightening.
How did you go get drafted?
No, I did not, because the lottery system came into play that year, and I waited that out. I think the lottery came after I registered for the draft. I remember going up to 63rd and Kedzie to register, and that was scary, and taking a test and all that stuff. And just waiting to get called. But then the lottery system came in, and I drew a very high number, 361 out of 364.
Oh my!
So
you were a lucky guy.
Right. But I had enlisted in the final year of school on a deferred enlistment, and I was going to go in. We had the recruiters come out to school and tell us, you got to enlist because otherwise, you're going straight over to Nam if you get drafted. But if you enlist, you get your choice. You might go to Germany. You might stay in the States. So I took him up on that. But and I think you'll like the story because it's a Chicago political story. When I got that 361 number, I changed my mind, and I said, I don't think I want to enlist. And went back to the recruiter and told him I want to rescind my enlistment. Oh, no, you can't do that. You're no way. You're in the Army now, buddy. And I said, no, man, I don't like this. So I'm at home, and I'm talking to my dad. Now, here's the Chicago political story. So what did he do? I mean, we didn't know what to do, but he talked to the precinct captain.
For the 9th Ward? Was it the 9th Ward then?
At that time it was 21st Ward, right near Fenger High School. Mm-hmm. It went 21st, 30. It's 34
They
today.
had to redistrict the heck out of that area because 21st is not near Fenger High now. But go ahead with your story.
And I think our alderman was a guy named Sam Yaksik. And so the precinct captain went to Sam. Sam went to our congressman, and the congressman was able to...
Barrett O'Hara?
No, I don't think it was him. I think it was a guy named Murphy, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe Morgan Murphy or something
I
like
think that may be right,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But it was an Irishman anyway. I don't know, O'Hara, Murphy.
What's the difference? Yeah, go on.
So, I mean, to me, I grew up...
The precinct captain went to the congressman.
The precinct captain went to the alderman, committeeman, and the committeeman went to the congressman.
And what did the congressman do?
He magically made it disappear, and I didn't have to go.
Good old Chicago.
Oh, man.
That's right. Chicago.
Chicago way, baby. Right. So suddenly some other kid had to go instead.
Well, sorry about that.
Yeah. Oh, man, what a city it is. So what did you do? Saved from having to go off into the Army, what did you do?
Well, I went to work. I worked 2 jobs, and I got married real early. I got married, I think I was 19 or 20, I forgot. But I got married and started a family when I was 21. And I was very industrious. I worked, and I sold stuff on the side, and went around to taverns and sold trinkets and jewelry and all kinds of stuff, and ran a little poker game on the side. Whatever I needed to do to make a living.
Yeah, wow. You would have done well in the Army, I think, Tom. You would have done well if you could have just kept off the front lines. That was part of the problem. Yeah. But what a pitch, Mark Sims. They would tell people, if you enlist in the Army, there's a
to hear that when I was in high school, not because Nam was over, but the point is that you used to hear like if you enlist, then you get treated better or something. I used to hear that crap back in the day.
What a line to get you in. Let's get a little more local now. One of the items we were going to talk about with the Southside Political Know-It-Alls is the casino. I'm going to have a told you so moment here. Tom Shepard, the last time you were on the show, we were talking that the city, Lori Lightfoot, had put 2 sites, I think it was 2 sites, doing this off the top of my head, from your neck of the woods, from the southeast side, actually not that far from where Mark Sims lives as well, as a list of for the casino. And I said, I don't believe ultimately the site of the next casino was on the list of neighborhoods that Lori Lightfoot is proposing. And sure enough, here we are, about a month or so later, 2 months later, and the south side off the list. So I guess...
well, I don't think Lori Lightfoot proposed those. I think there was a gambling concern that some kind of consulting group that selected those 5 sites, and they were recommended to this consulting firm. But Lori Lightfoot, I don't think liked the ideas, or she certainly looked at the numbers and saw that each of them had drawbacks, that they weren't going to bring enough revenue in. And number 2, I guess, when they dealt things out down in Springfield, they cut the profits so much and taxed so much that it wasn't attractive for large casino companies to bite on it with the revenues that they would have gotten in those outlying 5 sites. So I think Lori Lightfoot said that it's got to be near downtown just to make the numbers work, and apparently she's going to go back down to Springfield and ask them to rework those numbers a bit so that it would be appealing to a casino company.
Mark, are you disappointed that a casino is not coming to the south side of Chicago?
No, I don't care. But, I don't know. I don't gamble. I I bet $20 every once in a while. I was out in, like I said, I told you before, South Bend. I dropped $20 at the casino out there, and I went on back home. Mayor Pete wasn't in town that day. And I didn't know Henry Davis before I went out there. I think whatever they should do, I think they should consider. I don't know. I'm not a numbers cruncher. They should consider a main one and a few satellite casinos. Small, I don't think they're going to be profitable, but tied to, whether they make a big one or a small one, I think they should have showrooms, like shows. You know what I'm saying? It could be big shows, little shows, when it's not just gambling. It's like, okay, I don't gamble, but I'll go to the casino because I'll see the regular show they have all the time, and maybe I'll drop $20 or something. So I think they maybe should have something on the south side or south suburbs to keep people from going to Indiana. You know what I'm saying? But you're like, I can. Hey, I don't care. They got it downtown. I don't go downtown anyway. Yeah. I'm still going to Indiana. So I think they should have something now south to take some of that money from Indiana. Then you have maybe one that competes with Rivers. I don't know. Maybe the Rivers people don't like that way out near not Rosemont. What's the other next town? Des Plaines, or something west. Because from Aurora to downtown is a long way. People are like, I don't feel like going downtown, but I'll go to, dare I say, Austin. Who knows? Somewhere on the far west side, and it has to be a nice, safe casino. Enough to make money. And the key for me is shows. You have to have shows, local shows, big names, little names. So, and I know some of the show lounges may not like it, but I'm saying they got it not just casino, the shows. Because some people go to Vegas just for the shows. So they say.
Yeah, that's what they say. And so what's going to happen on the south side now that the casino's not coming there, or the southeast side?
Well, I don't think they've given up. I met with the developer at the Lake Calumet site who's been pushing it and promoting a hotel and a casino out there for quite some time. And they haven't given up yet. I think they were a little bit despaired by what they saw, but there's still hopes that it could happen at Lake Calumet. The other site out that way was 87th and the lakefront where U.S. Steel used to be, and they've got hundreds of acres out there.
That's tricky to get to, though. It's easier to get to Lake Calumet than 87th.
No, absolutely, that's the problem.
How far is it to get from 87th and it's not that hard to get there. Shoot down.
Once you get off the drive and you gotta get through South Shore.
But don't you have the direct route to 87th?
Yeah. You talking about 87th in the lake? No.
87th in the lake.
Yeah. No, that's not. No.
Yeah. How much you want to bet? They got a direct route there.
Doesn't he sound like a North Sider?
I'm going out there tonight.
Doesn't he sound like a North Sider? He sounds like a North Sider.
Yeah, you don't know that. I'll be there tonight to watch a film.
I'm not a Chicagoan.
Now here's a little trivia question. What were they trying to push in Lake Calumet years and years ago? They were trying to put something out there.
I can tell you.
No, I know you can tell him. Yeah, what about this North Sider? No, if you think about it, you can.
Oh yeah, he'll remember.
He'll remember. They tried to push a I'm sending you a telekinesis. Yeah.
The
airport.
Oh, the airport. I wrote about the airport.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
That's right.
That was early 90s.
Oh, my goodness. They were going to take Hegwish out and pave over Hegwish.
Yeah.
Did a story about that, a couple stories about that for the Reader. Unbelievable. That was Mayor Daley's scheme.
Right.
Very good.
Right.
You were sending me those vibes. I'm like,
I wasn't strong enough, man. But the thing about it, the same problem with Lake Calumet Airport is what? It's hard to get from Lake Calumet back downtown.
I don't think it's that hard to get to 87th and the lake. I'm telling you that right
we
now.
need want to get in the car with this guy, Tom? Come on. Dennis, you game, Dennis, let's go. Let's get in the car, man.
You take the drive and you get off, what is it, just south of Jackson
71st
Park.
Street.
Yeah,
60.
and then you go through swing
You go
east.
through Terratown first. First you go through Terratown. They used to call it Terratown back in the day.
But wait, there's a direct access. I just took Dennis down there.
Terratown.
It's
It was the last time you were in
lane
Terratown.
each way.
Yeah.
People double parked all the time, all over the place. Am I right? Yeah. Buses stopping, and
I'm not really raising the flag because I just took Dennis. Well, it was about a year ago. I drove Dennis down to the far southeast side, and we took. Remember, we got lost in Jeffrey. That's a whole other story.
See, it's hard.
Well, there were 2 Jeffrey Boulevards. Somebody told me.
Now, Sue Sedlowski Garza, if she were listening, she would be pretty ticked off at me for saying this, but it is very, very difficult to
she
get
would
to
be
that
so
spot.
ticked off right now, and she'd be screaming and yelling. Tom Shepard in the studio, Mark Sims. We're going to take a break and be right back.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan. Today's Ben Joravsky Show was brought to you in part by Chicago Architecture Center. Get to know your city on one of Chicago Architecture Center's 65 walking tours. Hear the unforgettable secrets and stories behind Chicago architecture from our expert docents. Book your tour at architecture.org/tours. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm actually on a tour right now. Oh, wow, look at that building. Get a special discount for Illinois residents from July 15th to August 15th. All Illinois residents get 50% off select walking tours. Visit architecture.org/IL-resident.
This is an awfully big body of water. We're looking for a needle in a haystack. And we're talking about a needle that moves constantly.
He's checked the floating traps he hand curated.
Right now it's a combination of drumsticks, rats, and smelt.
Yum.
Well, as far as the gator goes, that's a pretty good offering. We're hoping that the wind blowing the scent across the water will catch his attention.
We're all speculating on whether he grew up in somebody's, bathtub or backyard or something.
He's enjoying the 5 feet of water. He probably was raised in 6 inches. If we could find the animal, we can capture the animal.
Today's Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you in part by Green Element Resale. It's located at 6241 North Broadway in Chicago, and people, it is amazing. Furniture, lamps, appliances, antiques, and more. It is a thrift shop, but it's the only thrift shop that helps bring you the Ben Joravsky Show. So if you're ever on Broadway between Granville and Devon, stop in and say thank you. It's Green Element Resale. Find what items they have and more at greenelementresale.com. I actually saw Ben there over the weekend shopping for candles. He loves candles. It's Green Element Resale, greenelementresale.com, 6241 North Broadway in Chicago. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show. Mr. Joravsky, please take us home.
Okay, yes, indeed. Tom Shepard in the studio. One half of the Southside political know-it-alls. Jerry Brown couldn't make it. Mark Sims also in the studio. Another political know-it-all from the Southside.
Please.
So it's like we have the Southside political know-it-alls in there. We have a few more questions I want to ask these gentlemen before we get out of here. But before we do that, got an update for us, Dennis?
Absolutely, I do. 2 updates here. Number 1, we are on Facebook Live. We Facebook video live stream this program now. And if you're watching this video on Facebook video live stream, hey, I want to talk to you. Hey, have you liked the Ben Joravsky Show on Facebook yet? J-O-R-A-V as in victory. Well, you're on the page. If you're watching it, go like the Ben Joravsky Show on Facebook. I'm looking at you and Tom. Ben's pointing at you, too.
I'm pointing at this one.
See, I forget. It looks like a microphone.
That's a camera. That's a camera.
It's not smell-o-vision because I didn't shave nor bathe today.
Yeah, no
smell-o-vision.
What was that movie where they had smell-o-vision?
Let's talk about the Facebook page.
Sorry.
Jorav is a victory, SKY, at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show. Give us a like. We are almost to 2,000 likes, and as soon as we get to 2,000 likes, people, we are going to have a caption contest. So if you are watching this and you're already a fan of the Ben Joravsky Show and you've liked the page, go tell your friends, share it, and when we hit 2,000 likes, we will have our next caption contest. I'm not sure what kind of caption contest we'll have, Ben, but it's going to be a fantastic one. So head over to the Ben Joravsky Show Facebook page. If you're downloading and you've yet to like it, what's wrong with you? Go like the page, BENNY, the letter J Show. And Joravsky is Jorav as in victory, SKY. All right, on to some news here. We'll go ahead and file this one under, who cares? All right, let's see here. Alligator hunter Frank Robb. Remember that guy?
Oh, yeah.
Alligator Robb? Well, he has a girlfriend now, guys. Slow news day.
Gator got his
That's
granny.
an alligator girlfriend or a human girlfriend?
It's a human girlfriend. Way to
Just
go,
want to make
Rob.
sure.
Alligator Robb, by the way, the skinniest human I've ever seen. My Lord, he's scrawny.
Yeah.
He says here, they asked if Rob had a girlfriend, and remember, Rob's from Florida. He says, quote, I reckon you can call her that. And let's see here. Let's see. He told the Chicago Sun-Times Tuesday when a phone conversation veered from alligators to the fact he was in town over the weekend at a Cubs game with someone. Ooh.
Wait, he was just in town?
I guess so, yeah. Well, he has a girlfriend, so he's going to see his girlfriend.
He loves Chicago now.
All right, well, I tried to care as much as I could about that, but boy, I really don't. Alligator Rob is long gone.
At the Gator story in Humboldt Park. And Micah, our good friend Micah, I just want to throw this out to Micah, a young scholar who's writing a book about Bernie Sanders. Micah took a break or two only to go look at the Gator, right, D? He's back at hard at work.
He's back at work on that book.
Get back in that book, Micah. All right? All right. Now, Mark, you had a question you wanted to ask young Tom Shepard.
Yeah, the main one thing about Finger High School, and Tom may know this guy. First, you don't go back to Elliot Ness. He went to Finger High School, okay? I heard that was the lore when I was a kid, and that's true, right? Elliot Ness went to Finger High School.
His parents had a bakery in Pullman, where I live.
I did not know that.
And also, which I read recently on Wikipedia, that the great director Robert Zemeckis attended. So he was like 2 years younger than you, Tom. I think he left in 70.
Yeah, we're pretty close.
Wait, you know Zemeckis?
I don't know him personally, no, but the Pullman factory and the administration building and that whole setup there was his inspiration for the North Pole, the Polar Express.
Polar Express.
Polar Express.
Yeah.
Finger High School.
Wow.
He was just over the other side of the tracks from me.
And of course, I think he graduated from Fenger, or he attended at least, Mark's good friend Paul Vallis.
He does mention that.
Yeah, he went to Fenger. I don't know if he graduated from Fenger, but he went to Fenger.
What happened to Paul? He's out there somewhere, right? Running for mayor somewhere, right?
He allowed his hat to be thrown in the ring to be the budget director for the alderman in the city council. I don't think that's going anywhere.
But Tom, what grammar school you attended?
I graduated from Brennan, which is about 4 blocks from Fenger.
When he said Brennan, like Brennan, I never heard of Brennan.
Brennan, well, now it's called Alex Haley. And I'm a proud graduate of, I'm a white guy, but I graduated from Alex Haley Grammar School and Fenger Academy for Fenger African American. What is it called now?
I know it was Christian Finger when I went there.
Yeah, well, it was
I know
Fenger, but it's for African American studies or something like that.
Alex Haley, of course, is the great writer who was the co-author with Malcolm X of the autobiography of Malcolm X and Roots.
Roots too. Oh, Roots. We can talk about Roots the next time. We're going to talk about Naked Boys. So here we go. Naked Boys. Now, Tom, the legend goes back in the day when the boys swam at Finger, because it was all boys gym, all girls gym.
Yep.
It switched when I was there in the 70s. It became co-ed now, and that's a whole nother. We'll talk about that next time. Did you swim naked, Tom?
I had to swim naked, and and I ran with some guys that in the wintertime they would break the windows on the pool so that the pool would freeze over and we didn't have to swim on Monday.
Those Fenger kids, they were always an industrious
No, they
bunch.
said that was a thing for the whole CPS.
No, it's not just CPS. I want to tell you that. Evanston High School were just swimming naked, too.
Wait, you swam naked?
Yeah, I swam naked. It was really weird. They would parade all the kids, all the boys into the school.
Hot young boys.
And we were all naked.
Hot young
And
boys.
I've heard so many funny stories.
Hot young boys.
Yeah, well, okay, keep saying hot young boys.
What a turn this show's taken.
Yeah, I know. And so it's very bizarre and very weird. And I think about it from time to time. Mark Sims, that kind of like, I don't know where they were going at with this swimming naked thing.
It was hygiene. That's what they said.
Hygiene.
Hygiene.
Hygiene. How you doing?
Yeah, you're hiney in some jeans.
I never understand. I think it was torture. I think it was a power play by some weird sicko people that ran not just Chicago public schools, but Evanston. And I know a friend of mine who I think he went to Fenwick High School, which is the Catholic school over in Oak Park. And they swam naked too. So a lot of weird stuff
Well, we
going
didn't
on.
swim naked in the 70s, but we had these little skimpy little, I wouldn't even call them short. They were like skimpier than Speedos. And we had to take them off and throw them in the bin so they can wash them. And it was just bizarre, man.
Yeah, very bizarre.
And
Somebody got off on it. I know that.
And they had so much bleach in that pool that for the rest of the school day I couldn't see. My eyes were like clouded up.
See, now that's your problem. That's why you didn't do so well in
He's right.
geometry. There was
I
all
forgot
that
about the
in
bleach.
your eye, all
It
right?
smelled like a Clorox bottle.
All right, before we get out of here, Tom Shepard, I'm going to force you to give a grade. Everybody's giving Lori Lightfoot grades these days. She's your mayor, too. She's been mayor for about 100 days or so. She's very upset by the grade giving thing, by the way. Now someone's giving her a grade, suddenly she's just like, 100 days is an arbitrary date, and I shouldn't be given a grade. But what the heck? What's your grade that you're giving Lori Lightfoot?
So she came into town to remark on that?
Yes.
Or what?
Yeah, she flew in from Maine, yeah. Tom Shepard signaling the grade he'd given her maybe not that good. But anyway, what grade would you give her?
I think she's disappointed a lot of people. And some of the issues that she's disappointed people on didn't mean a whole lot to me, but I see that she's not done so much with the teachers union. You were talking about the teachers earlier. And so I think that's a problem with her. That's really something she's got to deal with when she gets to town. And
when she is back in town. I just want to throw that out there. She's back home from Maine, all right?
I saw her, I think, on page 2 of the Sun-Times about the grades.
Yes.
And on the casino issue and on the Obama Library, let's not forget that, because she's been kind of silent on that. And I think some of the people that really helped put her in are rather upset with her.
Yeah.
So...
what grade would you give her?
Well, I would have to say a C minus.
C minus.
Something like that. Mm-hmm.
Wow, man, everybody's harder. I gave her an A for not being Rom.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, okay.
Okay, got to give her. We all agree on that.
Yes.
I gave her an A for sending Ed Burke out to purgatory. Give her an A on that one. And then I think I overgraded her on tips. I gave her a D. I really should have given her an F on tips because she hasn't done anything to reform the tip program, which is a freaking scam, as we all know. I think all three of us agree on that. So not greatest grade. I mean, A for not being Rom. Any one of us would have gotten an A for not being Rom because none of us are Rom. So anyway, so you're giving her a C minus. And Mark, I can't remember. Did you duck and dodge and not give her
I gave her
anything?
A because I took a picture of her right here.
Oh,
I told
see,
you that.
right, yeah.
The thing about it, if you, when you're one of your bonus shows, maybe bring in somebody who's a historian on the Jane Byrne term, the one term of Jane Byrne, because she got the big head with the teacher. The teacher's board. She was supposed to people the board, the teacher board.
Yes,
and remember that. You remember that time?
No, there was a strike. Jane Byrne had a strike within her first year of firemen and the CTA.
Yep.
And then the schools ran out of money, and they went up with a payless payday, and the teachers went on strike. I mean, you're not getting paid. I mean, you know.
Yeah, but I'm saying Jane Byrne, as I barely remember, she got the big head after she won, and they tossed her out 4 years later. I would have voted for Jane Byrne, but I was still at Finger High School. But I voted against Jane Byrne and for Harold Washington in '83. The thing about it is that Lori Lightfoot was very smart. I met her right here. Yeah. But somebody needs to send her your bonus show when you're having a story on. Talk about that first, because if she doesn't do very well the first year or after Kim Foxx gets knocked out, they'll be coming for her head.
Okay, now that Kim Foxx.
And I like Lori Lightfoot. I think she could have 2 terms, but you got to do the Breeding Stories in about that Jane Byrne, because she was only there what time? One term.
Yeah.
One term.
1979 to 1983. Kim Foxx getting knocked out. We're going to hold that thought for another time. I don't think Kim Foxx, that's a done deal yet. But Mark, we'll hold that off for the next time we're on the show. Tom Shepard, thank you so much for coming in. Mark Sims, you have your podcast. You're going to
just a few questions. Just surf hey, go to your Facebook page. Maybe it'll be on there.
All right. Do you have the interview you did with you posted on our Facebook page yet?
No, we'll do that.
Oh,
Dennis was cool. I can do a whole hour about Dennis.
What am I? Chopped liver? You got the vacuum cleaner going.
No, but I'm going to bring you back because I messed up your interview.
All right,
you're going to come back.
Good. That's Mark Sims. Tom Shepard's in the studio as well. The great Adolfo Mondragon was in here earlier in the day. And, of course, behind the board, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois, and as Tom Shepard and Mark Sims can tell you, back home in Alton, they call him White Lightning. That's Dr. D. Give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
Hey, and remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky Show and Benny J bonus interviews at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, chicago.suntimes.com/pages/Joravsky, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you download your favorite podcasts. Big thanks to everybody who watched us on the Facebook video live stream. You can find us on Facebook at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show on Facebook and Twitter. And hey, downloaders, we live stream the program. It's true. Check us out sometime, Tuesdays through Fridays, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time at both Chicago Sun-Times, Chicago Reader websites, and the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel. See you tomorrow.